The first day I returned to my wealthy family, I put everyone in their place. Just a moment ago, my biological parents were still saying that since I grew up in the countryside, I must be the type of person who can't be presented in public. So they were trying their best to comfort that fake young master who was acting all distressed, saying that bringing me back was only to serve the purpose of a marriage alliance. But the moment they laid eyes on me, their jaws practically hit the floor. This young man with such an extraordinary aura, so cold and handsome, could he really be their biological son? I stopped before the dining table, looking down as I swept my gaze over the three people present. I said calmly, "I am Jiang Heng." Only then did Wang Fu and Wang Mu snap out of it, as if waking from a dream. Wang Mu, who just moments ago was so certain that I would be uncouth and lacking in etiquette, stood up awkwardly. She actually seemed a bit nervous. "Heng, you've been traveling all day. You must be exhausted. Please sit down." "Butler Feng, tell the kitchen to serve the dishes." Butler Feng replied with a nod. I pulled out a chair and sat down across from Wang Mu and Wang Heng, sitting with such dignity and poise, not showing the slightest bit of restraint. After the only outsider left, the atmosphere suddenly became inexplicably awkward. It was Wang Fu who cleared his throat softly, asking me, "How was the journey here? Did everything go smoothly?" I replied, "It was fine." Wang Fu asked again, "Are your school enrollment documents all ready?" "They are." Hearing that, Wang Fu frowned. "I see you and he are the same age. Both finished your entrance exams last summer. Why didn't you continue your studies after high school?" I actually hadn't been to school for over a year. One should know that Wang Tang has already started his second year of university. But after asking, he didn't even wait for my answer. Having already decided on one, what else could it be? It must be due to poor grades. After all, I grew up in the mountains. Finishing high school is considered good enough. Wang Fu said, "To arrange for you to get into this school, I had to donate an entire building. The cost was not small at all. If you can't keep up with the curriculum at school, you can ask Tenger. Arranging for both of you to be in the same major is also for the sake of looking after each other." I gave a brief nod. My indifferent attitude made Wang Fu a bit angry, suspecting that I was intentionally making him lose face. But seeing my calm expression, with no sign of defiance in my manner, he thought I was perhaps just naturally introverted, not good at communication. After all, the Wang family knows nothing about me. Though my attitude was somewhat distant, I answered everything asked, leaving nothing to be faulted. The dishes prepared by the kitchen were served one after another, and the dining table fell into silence. Except for me, who ate leisurely, everyone else was distracted. Wan Mu, who had previously looked down on me in every way, but now looking at the cold young man before her, a strange sense of satisfaction suddenly rose within her. "Tenger, I haven't introduced you yet. This is Tenger. Tenger has a very good personality, and since you're both around the same age, you should go to him if you need anything." After speaking to me, she turned to Wang Tang. "Tenger, this is your brother, Aheng. From now on, you're one family, so please call him Big Brother." Wang Tang's gaze swept from my jet black hair down to my steady shoulders, then lingered for a moment on my relaxed yet elegant sitting posture, finally stopping at my delicate and proud face. His fingers on his lap tightened into his palms, slowly calling out, "Brother." Is this the power of genes? Clearly just a child raised in a remote village, yet there wasn't a trace of rusticness in him. Every part of him was nothing but elegant, and every part was noble. His stance, his posture, even the lines of my body seemed more like a young master than him, who had been trained since childhood. Being in this luxurious and magnificent villa, I didn't show the slightest hint of discomfort, as if I had always lived in such superior surroundings. It turns out some people are truly born this way. Little did I know that just walking normally for a few steps and saying a few words would make Wang Tang overthink things so much. But I knew Wang Tang didn't truly welcome me, so I set my chopsticks down and said casually, "We're the same age. No need to call me brother. Just calling me Jiang Heng is fine." At this, Wang Fu frowned. "Are you still using the surname Jiang? Tomorrow I'll have someone take you to change your name." I directly refused. "The surname Jiang is very good. No need to change it. There's nothing to change." When Wang Mu heard this, she immediately disagreed. "You've returned to the Wang family now. You're the young master of the Wang family. How can you still bear the surname Jiang?" But I only replied calmly, "I have no fated connection with the Wang family." These words made the faces of the other three change. I was switched with Wang Tang at birth, and supposedly lived with an old man named Jiang, with no parents. Now that I say I have no fate with the Wang family, is it because I'm blaming Wang Fu and Wang Mu for doing nothing all these years? Wang Tang bit his lip, acting wronged. What you mean is, all of this is my fault? I raised an eyebrow in surprise. Why would you think that? The Wang family and I truly have no fate, and it's not because of being switched or anything, but because our destinies clash with each other. A mere Wang Tang alone is not significant enough to have such an influence. So, I answered honestly, you're overthinking it. You don't even have the standing for that. However, Wang Tang acted as if he had just been humiliated, his eyes turning red. Brother, I know you don't like me, but how could you say such things to me? Hearing that, I was stunned. What did I say? I was only telling the truth. I looked Wang Tang up and down once, confirming again, your forehead is flat and somewhat wide. Prosperous in youth, born in late autumn. Tomb of two sparrows. Furthermore, with such sparse eyebrows, your wealth and status won't last long. If you weren't raised in Dijing, which belongs to the water element, your luck probably wouldn't have held out until now. I shook my head and continued. With your own fortune being so weak, how could you possibly affect me? Wang Tang didn't understand all those long-winded metaphysical terms, but he understood that I was saying his prosperity wouldn't last. He immediately looked toward Wang Fu. Father, listen to what he's saying. I don't have any wealth of my own. Isn't it all given by the family? If he says my wealth won't last, doesn't that mean he's saying the Wang family's prosperity won't last? At this, Wang Fu indeed looked at me with dissatisfaction. Don't play these tricks. He naturally knew that in this world there were real masters of divination. But those people were all old men in their 50s or 60s. How old was I? I had just reached adulthood, so what could I possibly know? Wang Mu believed even less in spirits and ghosts. In her eyes, I had just picked up some nonsense from somewhere, and was intentionally saying it to irritate others. Thinking this, the satisfaction Wang Mu had just felt for my appearance and aura immediately diminished. I crossed my arms and leaned back against the cushion, feeling both amused and exasperated for a moment. Remembering how many people used to beg me for a reading without even getting the chance to see my face. Now I'm showing great compassion, giving so much information for free, yet they don't even appreciate it. I recalled my time in Sinan with the old man Jiang, who once told me that worldly people are ignorant, only liking to hear what benefits them, and disliking words of ill omen. That's why it's said that the truth is hard to hear. Back then I was very arrogant, saying that with my skills, whatever I say people must listen. Old man Jiang laughed and shook his head. Little one, you haven't seen enough of the world, so you don't understand the human heart. Now it seems. The old man Jiang truly was more experienced. I'm not the type of person to nag. If I've spoken and they don't believe me, so be it. I'm not going to waste any more words. I'm full. Please take your time with the meal. I set down my chopsticks, took a sip of warm water, then asked, You don't mind if I leave first? Wai Mu nodded. Then go back to your room and rest. Tomorrow, Xiao Li will drive you and Tang to school together. Understood. I called the butler over, asking him to lead me to my bedroom. The main villa of the Wang family, including the basement, has a total of 6 floors, including the bedrooms. Wang Fu and Wang Mu live on the 3rd floor. Wang Tang is on the 4th. And the room the butler arranged for me is on the 5th floor. I stood before the large clear window of the bedroom, where just by looking down I could take in the entire view of the garden. The moonlight draped over me like a thin silk ribbon, making the profile of my face look even more distant and mysterious. The butler paused for a moment, unable to help but wonder, feeling that this newly returned young master seemed incredibly deep and unpredictable. But that couldn't be. Isn't he only 19 years old? The butler asked while pondering. Is the young master satisfied with this room? If not, I can change it for you. It's fine, I'll stay here for now. The butler was still secretly wondering what for now meant, but he didn't say much. After I said I had no other need, he bowed and left. He was gone and I was left alone in the room. I looked up at the bright moon hanging high outside, my fingers moving quickly a few times, forming a strange hand seal. If anyone knowledgeable in metaphysics saw this, they would immediately recognize it as a divination seal. Since coming to this world, I have cast a divination every day. However, the results I get every day are exactly the same, and today is still no different. I lowered my hand and gave a silent, soft sigh. Early the next morning, after checking the progress of breakfast in the kitchen, the butler intended to go upstairs to wake me. The butler and the others have a fixed time to wake up on working days, but since it was my first day, the butler worried that if he didn't remind me, I might easily oversleep. As it turned out, before the butler could even step into the elevator, he saw me walking in lightly from the outside. The butler was a bit surprised. When did the young master go out? I woke up very early, yet I didn't see you go out at all. I thought for a moment. I didn't really pay attention to the time. It was probably around dawn. That must have been around 5 o'clock. Just when the butler was waking up. He thought perhaps he just hadn't noticed, and although it felt a bit strange, he didn't pursue it further. Little did he know that I hadn't gone out through the main door at all, but had jumped directly from the 5th floor into the garden, and then climbed over the high wall in the garden to get out. I find this villa so troublesome, needing an elevator for every floor and digital locks for every door. I feel it's much more convenient to just do things my way. If I hadn't run into the gardener trimming the plants when I returned, I would have just climbed back over the wall. I went back to my room to shower and change, then organized the papers and documents I needed for school today. When I went downstairs, Wan Fu, Wang Mu, and Wang Tang were already seated at the table in the small dining room. I greeted them politely, then picked a random chair and sat down. During breakfast, Wang Fu said to me, "Your mother and I intended to take you to school personally, but the company has a very important meeting today, and your mother must accompany me." Wang Tang has been there for over a year. He knows the school very well, so let him go with you. I swallowed a sip of soy milk and set the glass down before answering. Yes, I understand. Wang Fu continued, "You haven't been in school for over a year. You definitely won't be able to keep up with the curriculum. Even though I've put up the money, it won't do if your grades are too poor. If you really can't keep up, come tell us, and we'll arrange a tutor for you." Hearing this, I found it quite laughable. This was already the second time Wang Fu had said that he thought I wouldn't be able to keep up with university. Although Wang Fu and Wang Mu acted like benevolent parents, it was clear that they had never truly looked into my background. If they had bothered to look at my academic record from childhood until now, as well as the competitions I participated in 2 years ago, they certainly would never have uttered such words. However, I didn't care to argue, and only nodded, acting like a dutiful child listening to an elder's advice. After Wang Fu finished speaking, I picked up my chopsticks to continue eating. Wang Fu didn't notice these small details, and Wang Tang was too busy thinking about me accompanying him to school today, so he was too distracted to notice either. Only Wang Mu looked at me with a complex expression. After finishing breakfast, the driver drove us away. Only then did Wang Mu hesitantly say to Wang Fu, "Do you notice that he is very..." Wang Fu wondered, "Very what?" "Very handsome. After all, he is our biological son. In terms of looks, he's truly surpassed us." On this point, Tanger really can't compare. No, Wang Mu glared at him, and not talking about looks. In talking about the boy's manner of speaking and his aura, "Don't you feel there's something not quite right?" Wang Fu misunderstood her and laughed. "What's not right?" Before he came back, I was worried he wouldn't know manners. But now it seems he is very... Stopping mid-sentence, Wang Fu suddenly paused. He caught Wang Mu's gaze, realizing something. Is it that he behaves too well? It's almost impossible to find a single flaw. Wang Mu saw that he finally understood, and sighed. Just now during the meal, none of you were paying attention. That boy's dining etiquette is much more elegant than our own families. When you spoke to him, he would swallow all the food in his mouth, set down his utensils, and then reply. Only when you stopped talking would he start eating again. Wang Fu recalled, "It seems that's true." Wai Mu continued, "Our house has never had such strict rules when eating. Furthermore, just think about how the boy holds his chopsticks, his posture in the chair, and his demeanor when walking and speaking." Wang Fu fell into deep thought. Now that you mention it, the feeling he gives off is indeed very different. At first, I thought it was just because he was so handsome that everything he did looked good, so that everything he did seemed pleasing. Thinking back now, his aura is truly outstanding. Wai Mu hesitated. I originally thought that since he grew up away from us, he would just be some wild child, and definitely wouldn't be up to par in any way. But looking at the way he speaks and acts, do you think it's too much of a waste for him to marry into the C family in place of Tanger? Would it be a pity? At this, Wang Fu frowned deeply. What are you talking about? How is he replacing Tanger? Tanger was never our biological son to begin with. The childhood marriage contract my father set back then was for the biological grandson of the Wan family. This marriage naturally belongs to A Heng. It's just that because the children were switched, everyone was misled into thinking it was Tanger for all these years. However, Wang Mu thought about the C family's situation. The third young lady of the C family is currently in that state. They might have to divorce immediately after marrying. When the time comes for him to remarry, it will be very difficult to find a good family. The boy's qualities are so good. Isn't it a waste to have him marry into the Z family? Indeed, although I was only 19 years old, I already displayed the features of an absolute handsome man. Even now, quite young, I was already very handsome. It's hard to imagine how breathtaking my appearance will be when I'm fully grown. Wang Fu tapped on the table, also feeling a bit reluctant. Such an excellent son, yet unable to fulfill his greatest potential. But Tenger cannot marry the Z family's third young lady. Wang Fu lowered his voice. You know that Tenger and Zi Ruyan originally had feelings for each other. Now that the third young lady has fallen, the Xie family has no one left to support them. Shi Ruyan is the one with the most hope. Tenger worked very hard to establish a connection with Shi Ruyan. Wai Mu understood this logic as well, saying regretfully, if only the third young lady were still as she was before. That would be wonderful. Our biological son could marry her. Our Wang family would soar to the heavens in a single step. But now that she's on her deathbed, what's the use of marrying her? Wang Fu patted her hand comfortingly. If she hadn't met with that accident, our son wouldn't even have had the chance to marry her. After all, the ruler of that #1 family is not someone we can easily reach. Besides, Hang's academic background really isn't anything to boast about. He even needs us to donate money for him to attend university. Wang Fu was still very dissatisfied with this point. Wang Mu nodded. It seems we must still focus all our efforts on Tenger. In the future, as long as Shi Ruyan can marry Tenger, we won't have to worry about the Wang family's future anymore. Wang Fu gently stroked her hair, smiling. I'll have to trouble you with the matters of the house, my lady. Wang Mu only gave him a playful tap. No need for such formalities. By this time, Wang Tang and I had arrived at the school gates, attracting many gazes the moment we stepped out of the car. Some girls were walking by and turning their heads to look at me. Wow, is that guy a student at our school? Probably. I've seen all the handsome guys in our school. But I couldn't possibly have no impression of someone this handsome. This level must be at least school idol status. I'm all too familiar with being noticed and complimented, so I didn't even blink. Wang Tang's expression, however, was not pleasant. Usually he was the center of attention, but now standing next to me, not a single soul was paying him any mind. Thinking about the things he had told his friends before, Wang Tang stopped in his tracks, forcing a smile at me. Hang, I just remembered I have plans with a friend. Can you go to the admissions office to register by yourself? My gaze swept across his brow. It's fine, I can go alone. But I should remind you of something. Your fortune today doesn't seem to be very good. Hearing this, Wang Tang's smile froze, instinctively thinking I was just blathering again. He stomped off irritably, cursing under his breath. I really don't know what's wrong with him. Always talking about useless, mystical things. Does he think saying those things will actually scare someone? Ridiculous. Wang Tang was walking in a hurry and didn't pay attention while going upstairs. At a corner, someone carrying a stack of exam papers was approaching, and the two collided. Seeing the papers about to spill on him, he quickly backed up, but his waist slammed hard into the edge of the stairs, causing sharp pain. Ouch! How are you even walking? The other person glared at him, scrambling to pick up the pile of exam papers. These are papers Professor Zhang needs urgently. Wang Tang, being hit hard, wasn't happy either and was about to speak, but saw it was the girl known as the school's big sister with a powerful family background, so he could only endure it. Sorry, I was just in a bit of a rush. Next time, remember to wear your glasses when you're out. The person gave him a look, then ran off clutching the stack of papers. Wang Tang clutched his waist and returned to class. Seeing that his close friends hadn't arrived yet, he breathed a sigh of relief. Before I returned to the Wang family, he used to complain to his friends, saying he feared that when the biological son returned, people would gossip about him behind his back. His friends all said that was impossible. Mi Ping even laughed at his needless worry. Tang, you're overthinking it. What era is this anyway? What is a blood connection even worth? So what if he's the real young master? Is he as handsome as you? Is he as elegant as you? Does he have your connections in this circle? Don't scare yourself. Even if he returns to the Wang family, he'll just be a young master in name only. You are the true young master of the elite in everyone's eyes. Before meeting me, Wang Tang used to think that too. But after meeting me, he was shocked to discover that, from my looks to my bearing, everything was flawless, surpassing him in every way. If the two of us were to walk side by side, others will definitely feel that I am the young master born with a silver spoon, raised since childhood. The young master of the Wang family told his friends that I would be coming to school to register today. At that time, hearing them say they wanted to meet me in person to humiliate me, he acted awkward on the outside, but he was actually very smug deep down. But now he doesn't want his friends to run into me at all. Although everyone will eventually see and know sooner or later, he hopes that moment comes as late as possible. Unfortunately, just as I said, Wang Tang's luck today is truly terrible. Just as he arrived at the bottom of the lecture hall building, someone suddenly called out, "Hello, classmate. Could you help me for a second?" He turned his head and was then completely stunned, falling into a pair of eyes as bright as springtime. "Excuse me, which way to the registrar's office?" Mi Ping stood there dazed, her mind going completely blank. Seeing her staring at me without saying anything, I felt it was a bit odd. "Classmate? Hey, classmate?" Mi Ping only snapped out of it after I called her a few times, her face turning bright red. She hurriedly looked away from my face. "Sorry. I was a bit absent-minded just now." "What did you just ask?" How embarrassing. She's a girl, yet she stared at a guy until she was dazed. This is truly a social death scene. I repeated the question once more. "I'd like to ask how to get to the registrar's office." Mi Ping pointed the way for me. "That white building ahead, 3rd floor. Turn right after the elevator, there's a sign on the door." "All right, thank you." After thanking her, I intended to leave, but Mi Ping suddenly asked me, "Which school are you a student of?" Reasonably speaking, someone with such looks should be very famous. I told her I had just come to register today. Mi Ping understood. Some freshmen might register a bit later. Her eyes lit up, reaching out to me. "Then I'm your senior Nuna. It's truly fate to meet on your first day of registration. I'm Mi Ping, a sophomore in the finance department. Our classroom is in room 506. Feel free to come by and see me when you're free." I smiled and shook her hand. "Hello, senior, Im Jian Hung. Thank you for being so welcoming. Meeting is fate, so I'll give you a free reading. Tell your brother to stay far away from bridges when he goes out tomorrow." Mi Ping froze for a moment. What? Why mention her brother all of a sudden? Wait, how did he know she even had a brother? But before she could ask, I had already waved and walked away. Mi Ping returned to her classroom full of doubt. She saw a few people gathered around Wang Tang, chatting, so she put her things down and went over to listen. They were discussing Wang Tang's older brother who was just brought back. Why let him be the eldest young master? Someone wondered, by the principle of first come, first served. Wang Tang should have been the eldest young master. Others agreed, saying he'd only been at the Wang house for a day, and his parents were already playing favorites. They even forced Wang Tang to call him older brother. Wang Tang lowered his head and explained softly, "That's not it. My parents just want to make it up to him." Actually, he knew. The reason Wang Fu and Wang Mu let him keep that status was so he could marry the 3rd young lady of the Shi family in his place next year. But of course, he couldn't say that out loud. The others were indeed indignant on his behalf after hearing this, saying that if he yielded his birthright today, he might have to yield the entire family fortune tomorrow. Someone advised Wang Tung to be more careful, stating that although the other was the biological son, but Wang Tung had been the one in the Wang house for over 10 years. If it came down to who carried more weight, the two of them should be equal. "Wang Tung, you can't let him surpass you." Someone mocked, "Don't be ridiculous. How can a wild kid expect to be equal to Wang Tung? I bet he doesn't even know how. Well, his steak should be cooked." Another girl with pigtails asked Wang Tung, "Did you see him yesterday? Is he really ugly? Does his face have those red windburns from living in the mountains? Is he the tall, crude type, all covered in muscle? He's probably a terrible student too. The Wangs probably had to donate a building to get him into university. We're already sophomores, while he's still a lowly freshman." Wang Tang curled his lip and replied vaguely, "I've seen him. Anyway, you guys shouldn't say such things." Everyone took it as a silent admission, so they felt a bit sympathetic, and immediately burst into quiet laughter. Mi Ping frowned upon hearing this, saying, "Why are you all gossiping so much? Didn't you say you'd go see him today? Why are you still here?" Mi Ping had the best family background in their group, so the others all flattered her. Hearing her speak, someone immediately responded, Let's go. It's not time for class yet. Let's go have a look." "Don't do that. It feels like we're going to bully someone. He is my brother, after all." "What kind of brother is he even?" Someone pulled Wang Tang's arm and said, "Let's go. Just tell us which major in class he's in." "Well, just take a look. Not actually bully him." The young crowd laughed and chattered, saying, "Well, just talk about banquets in front of him. Talk about clothes. Chat about cars and such. And nothing else. Mi Ping, that 1 second million yuan watch your brother gave you, Are you wearing it? Let that poor kid open his eyes. Ha ha ha. Wang Tang was indeed swayed by their words. No matter how handsome Jiang Heng was, or how good his temperament was. So what? Has he ever seen a supercar, worn designer brands, used luxury goods, or worn a prestigious watch before? He'd probably be shocked once he found out the prices of these things. However, whenever he thought of Jiang Heng's face, Wang Tang ultimately decided to forget it. Right now, everyone thinks he must be ugly. If they saw him, they might be completely mesmerized. Wang Tang understood the importance of looks very well, especially in reality. When someone's looks far exceed the ordinary, the public will surely be more forgiving of them. Better to leave him for a few days, let him tarnish his own image first, giving others the impression that although he's handsome, he's just an empty vessel. By then, others wouldn't think much of him even if they saw him. Wang Tong pointed at the clock hanging at the front of the classroom, helplessly saying, "It's almost time for class. First period today is calculus. With Professor Ma. Are you sure you want to go out?" Their calculus professor was the school's famous king of flunking students. The group hesitated for a moment and indeed decided to temporarily give up, searching for him, and focus on finishing this class first. I successfully completed the procedures, received all the books, uniform, student ID, and meal card, then was personally brought into the class by the advisor. When I appeared, the noisy and bustling classroom suddenly became pin-drop silent. Dozens of eyes were all focused on me at once. In the back row, a girl let out a gasp of amazement. I was amused and gave a faint smile, sparking another round of whispers in the class. The advisor helplessly said, "Class is starting. Why aren't you reading instead of doing this?" "What is the first period?" Someone replied, "Western economics." The advisor looked out into the hallway, saw that the economics professor hadn't arrived yet, and cleared his throat. "All right. Before class starts, I'll introduce a classmate who registered a bit late. Jiang Heng." He turned to me. "Go up to the podium and introduce yourself." I wrote my name on the blackboard, scanned the classroom once, and let my gaze linger briefly on a male student, in the third row from the bottom, then quickly withdrew it. "Hello everyone, my name is Jiang Heng." Warm applause broke out below to welcome the new student. The advisor was a literature teacher. Looking at the name I wrote on the board with appreciative eyes. He said this young man's handwriting was well-rounded with clear strokes, looking neat on the surface. Yet the penmanship carried the profound flavor of semi-cursive script. If you were to truly practice calligraphy, his style would surely be otherworldly, with an extraordinary aura. The teacher was lost in thought, and only after I finished and looked at him for a long time did he snap out of it. "Is that all you have to say?" I smiled, responding, "Talking too much isn't as good as getting to know each other. Everyone will naturally understand each other as time goes on." The advisor checked the time and said, "All right, just pick any seat you like. First period is Western economics. The professor will be here soon. If you have any problems, you can come to my office anytime." Hearing that, I politely replied, "Yes, thank you, teacher, I understand." Before leaving, the advisor turned back to look at the words on the blackboard again, praising my beautiful handwriting. "Next time the school has an activity or competition, you must definitely participate." I smiled and nodded to show I understood. As soon as the advisor left, the class was like a drop of water in a hot pan of oil, suddenly erupting into excitement. University classrooms are spacious, with many empty seats, but I didn't hesitate to walk straight to the third row from the bottom, tapping lightly on the desk. "Hello. May I ask if this seat is taken?" Niyu was stunned for a moment, not expecting this high-tier guy to come straight to him. There was no one beside him, and he was sitting right by the window, instinctively thinking I wanted his spot, so he hurriedly stood up. "Do you want to sit by the window?" "I can." I placed my hand on his shoulder, pressing him back down into his seat. "Sitting right next to you is fine." The moment I stepped into the class, I had already noticed that around this male student, there were dark streams of death aura. This so-called death aura was naturally very rare. And the death aura surrounding Miei didn't actually originate from himself, but seemed as though he'd been beside someone for a long time, and had accidentally been tainted by it. Among those I've met from my past life to this one, people with concentrated death aura are not many, and those whose aura is so thick it taints others can be counted on one's fingers. Furthermore, this death aura was not at all pure. It seemed that person's current situation must be extremely difficult. I pondered in silence, evaluated Miei once, then asked softly, "Is someone in your family in trouble?" Miei's eyes widened as he blurted out, "What did you say?" In his heart, he was terrified. This strangely handsome young man, meeting him for the very first time. Yet he asked if someone in his family was in trouble. Could it be that his relationship with his cousin had been exposed? Impossible. He had kept it well hidden for years. How could even a freshman, who just arrived, know about it? Nia hurriedly searched the school forum and only breathed a sigh of relief after ensuring no one was gossiping about him. Only then did he deny it to me. No, nothing like that. Pausing for a moment, he asked again, "Where did you hear this from? Are you confusing me with someone else?" I tilted my head and looked at him, saying lightly, "Lying in front of me is useless." I recounted Miyu's past fluently. "You come from a wealthy background. Your parents' relationship is very good. And you also had an older brother who died young. You were frail as a child. At age 6, you fell into water. That was a calamity in your life. Although you survived it, you still wouldn't be considered perfectly healthy. At age 9, you probably moved, changed cities, met a benefactor, and from then on your fate changed. That benefactor you met must have been related to you by blood." Nia listened, frozen like a statue. Seeing his secrets about to be completely laid bare, he hurriedly pleaded, "My ancestor, please stop talking. Any more and you'll expose my entire family tree." I stopped right then, just as he wished, and didn't speak further. I said with a half smile, "Don't lie in front of me. To me, you are transparent." He also moved slightly closer to me, whispering, "How do you know these things? Is your family some kind of special agent or intelligence agency, the type that can easily investigate others? The kind that can easily look up people's backgrounds?" I replied calmly, "No, I don't need to investigate. I can read fates." Nia was bewildered. "Read fates? What does that mean?" I thought for a moment. "In common terms, it's called metaphysics." Nia couldn't believe it, stuttering, "Metaphysics? Aren't metaphysical masters usually white-haired? Are you actually hundreds of years old?" I didn't bother arguing with him. Who says a metaphysical master must be old? Every field and sect has its geniuses, where one day of training equals decades for others. Haven't you ever met that kind of person? Miyu said he indeed had seen geniuses, but only in mathematics, physics, or even business, yet never a genius in metaphysics. However, seeing I didn't look like I was lying, plus the childhood stories I just mentioned, were basically all spot on. He asked, "You mean, you're the kind of person whose progress in a day is worth decades for everyone else?" He thought I would admit it immediately, but unexpectedly I let out a chuckle, shaking one finger. "No. In the type whose one day equals hundreds of years for others." Hearing this, Niyu felt a bit skeptical, feeling that this metaphysical master seemed a bit unreliable. Miyu wanted to ask more, but the Western economics professor had already entered the class, so he had to open his textbook and start the lesson. However, whenever he thought of what I just said, he couldn't sit still. Actually, he didn't really believe in this metaphysics stuff, because ever since his cousin had an issue the hospitals couldn't fix, his cousin's family had invited many people claiming to be masters. Those masters, some claimed to be enlightened monks, others claimed to be disciples of various deities in the mortal realm, earthly disciples, and some even showed all kinds of association certificates upon entering. They set up altars to the heavens, invoked gods and prayed to Buddha, burning bundles of incense and piles of talismans, but in the end, they still couldn't solve his cousin's condition. If at the beginning, he still held hope for these mystical methods, then by now that bit of hope had long since been worn away. Niyu looked at the professor lecturing at the podium, then stole a glance at me out of the corner of his eye. No one had ever been like me, able to say so much upon the first meeting. Even though I looked a bit too young and far too handsome, he couldn't help but admit that when I spoke, it always brought a very strong sense of trust. Niyu hesitated for a while and took out his phone, opened his social media QR code page, secretly handed it towards me under the desk, and asked softly, "Can we be friends?" To chat online. After I sent a friend request, Niyu quickly accepted, sent a sticker to open the conversation, then typed a message to me. "Earlier, when you asked if someone in my house is in trouble, did you divine that?" "Correct. Then can you divine which person in the house?" From the corner of his eye, he saw my fingers pause for a bit. A moment later, Niyu received an answer, within the 5 degrees of mourning, either a brother or a sister. "Judging from your features, it's likely a female, perhaps a cousin." Niyu was dazed, hurriedly asking, "If you know she's in trouble, then do you know how to solve it?" I replied, "I need to see the person." Niyu hesitated, unable to decide. And only after a long while replied, I can't decide this myself. I need to ask the elders in my family first. I didn't reply to him. Niyu thought for a while, then messaged me. You got something wrong just now. I've never heard that I have an older brother. This time I replied very quickly. I am never wrong. Go home and ask your parents. This master seems a bit too arrogant, still refusing to admit a mistake even at this point. Could it be that he, as his parents' own son, doesn't know as well as an outsider like me? Miyu's competitive spirit was sparked, so he switched to the chat with his mother. Mom, is it true I had an older brother who died young? He planned to wait for his mother's reply, then screenshot it to prove I was wrong. As it turned out, he was left stunned while waiting, finally seeing his mother reply, How do you know? Seeing that sentence, Niyu almost jumped out of his seat. He drew in a sharp breath of cold air, then choked and began to cough violently. The professor at the podium looked down with concern. Are you all right? If you're sick, you can ask for permission to go to the clinic. Niyu apologized hurriedly. I'm fine, really fine. It's just a slight cold. Sorry for disrupting your class. Waiting until the professor looked away, he then messaged his mother. A metaphysical master told me. I didn't believe it at first. The chat showed typing at the top. Niyu was a bit nervous, worried his mother would think he was talking nonsense. Call me back when you're free. Niyu saw this and knew his mother had something important to say. Right after class, he immediately rushed out, running to a secluded spot to make the call. As soon as the call connected, Miyu's mother asked directly, What did that master say? Miyu then recounted exactly everything I had told him. He asked me as soon as we met if someone in our house was in trouble. After I denied it, he said I was lying, and then listed all my childhood stories. He said I was frail as a child, and I already knew about falling in water at age 6. At age 9, when Dad was reassigned, and we moved from Huaizhou to Dijing. It's also true my health improved after that. But he also said I had an older brother who died young. Niyu's mother sighed. It's true. Besides me and your father, no one else knows this. I didn't expect someone could actually see it. Niyu originally wanted to ask how that child died, but hearing his mother's sorrowful tone, he thought she probably still hasn't gone, so he sensibly didn't ask further, proactively changing the subject instead. Previously, you and Dad always said, it was because I changed cities, changed environments that I got healthy. If what he said is true, that it was actually because I met a benefactor, then was that benefactor my cousin? Well, he seems to have real skills. How about having him go check on my cousin? Nayu's mother looked troubled. You know, not just anyone can meet your cousin. How about this? Let me ask first. If Grandpa agrees, then invite him over this weekend. The person Nayu's mother called Dad was the old master of the Xie family, Nayu's maternal grandfather. Nayu knew the family would surely be cautious regarding his cousin, so he nodded, yes. Let's figure it out then. Waiting until he returned to class, sat in his seat. I seemed to know where he had just gone, glanced at him, and asked leisurely, confirmed who was wrong in the end. Nayu laughed apologetically. I was wrong. It's truly because Mom never mentioned this to me before. I didn't care much. Responding, I told you earlier, to me, you are transparent. Niyu was a bit dazed hearing me repeat this, looking at me with a strange gaze for a while, about to say something but stopping. I spoke up. If you have something to ask, just ask. Why that look on your face? Niyu cleared his throat, bashfully asking, You said in your eyes I'm transparent, so does that mean you can see everything? I confirmed, of course. Past, future, relationships, your 5 elements and fortune cannot be hidden from me. Then, Niyu's voice grew lower, his face flushing slightly red. Do you see me with clothes on, or without any clothes? Hearing that, I replied speechlessly. Niyu, I have the heavenly eye, not X-ray vision. Niyu's wild imagination and his question made me feel both amused and annoyed. What on earth are you even talking about? What kind of nonsense are you thinking about all day? Niyu gave an awkward smile. The thought just suddenly popped into my head. I don't know what possessed me earlier to ask such a question. Thinking back on it now, I'm honestly too embarrassed for words. Luckily, I didn't intend to actually hold it against him. The second period was about to begin. Niyu hurriedly searched for his textbook, pretending as if nothing had ever happened. After the second period ended, there was a relatively long break. This time is for students to conveniently switch classrooms. In school, besides the mandatory major subjects, They also establish university core requirements and elective courses for students. Among them, the university core requirements are usually scheduled for the last 2 periods of the morning or afternoon. Niyu intended to ask me which course subject I chose, but since he had just acted so foolishly, he was still feeling a bit shy. Suddenly, a girl's voice was heard asking at the door, "Is there a new freshman who just registered in your class?" The students at the front desk packing their books replied, "Yes, there is." "What's the matter?" The 4 girls at the door whispered to each other. "Found him. Found him. He's in this class." A short-haired girl spoke up. "Call him out here. We have something to discuss with him." Then someone at the door shouted loudly, "Hey, handsome guy who registered today. Someone is looking for you." Miyu was surprised. "Isn't this your first day? How can someone already be looking for you? Do you have acquaintances at this school?" I just gave a slight smile and said, "Perhaps." I put my things down and walked out of the classroom. "Who's looking for me?" And then I saw the girl who asked for directions, whom I had met early this morning. I looked towards her, Mi Ping. Mi Ping was overjoyed. "You still remember my name?" Seeing the two about to reminisce, someone nearby hurriedly interrupted. "Wait, are you the freshman who just registered today?" I replied, "That's right." The 4 girls looked me over, then whispered, "Seems like we found the wrong person. This guy doesn't look like him at all, does he? He's way too handsome in person. I wonder whose young master he is. Sister Ping, do you know him?" Even though they had gone asking class by class, and only this class had a newcomer, they were still doubtful. Could it be that dirt poor guy really didn't show up today? Well, just ask and we'll know. They had come here behind Wang Tang's back. They knew my name, but seeing the extraordinary appearance and aura of the person before them, they felt he couldn't possibly be that Wang Tang, that poor kid from the mountains just brought back by the Wang family. The short-haired girl asked tentatively, "Do you know Wang Tang?" Hearing that, I slightly raised an eyebrow. If living under the same roof currently counts as knowing him, then I suppose I'm his older brother. All 4 were stunned. It took a moment for my meaning to register. They exclaimed in shock, "Are you the little young master of the Wang family who was switched at birth?" I replied nonchalantly, "Don't call me that. I don't like it. My name is Jiang Heng. I already said it at the Wang house yesterday. The Wang family and I share no fate. What did Wang Tang not tell you?" Seeing my unconcealed distance from the Wang family, and such obvious coldness, even my expression was incredibly detached when mentioning them, exuding an indifference that kept others at bay. The group of them initially intended to show off before this newly returned Wang young master, using an air of wealth and superiority to throw a few sarcastic remarks. Who would have thought they'd first be intimidated by his aura, and then completely crushed by his attitude? For a moment, they looked at each other in confusion, no one daring to speak. I asked lazily, "Is there anything else? If not, I need to head to my next classroom for class." The short-haired girl plucked up her courage and took a step forward. "You say you and the Wang family share no fate. Then why did you even come back?" That was also what the other 3 wanted to ask. If he disliked the Wang name that much, then what on earth did he return to the Wang family for? A strange expression flickered across my face, feeling that it was a very good question. I stood at the classroom door, the autumn sunlight draping over me, my gaze looking incredibly inscrutable. At that moment, all 4 girls felt that I was, as if covered by a mysterious mist. My gaze bypassed them, looking towards something much greater, existences that could not be moved. I seemed to let out a soft chuckle, naturally because I have a debt that must be repaid. But then I turned my head toward the back of the class, where Niyu was still peeking out to eavesdrop. I smiled slightly. And now it seems I found a more suitable way. Just then, a girl with an impatient look on her face walked out of the classroom. She cracked her knuckles at Mi Ping's group. "What are you guys doing blocking the door to my class? Looking for a fight?" The way Mi Ping's group surrounded me made it look as if they were conducting a case of violent bullying, picking on the weak with numbers. This girl was a well-known senior in the school, named Miu Chu Chu. Word is that even during military training, the instructor gave her a hard time. Though Mi Ping's group were upperclassmen, they didn't want to mess with this girl, so they took a few steps back. I kindly offered an explanation. "They're just here on behalf of Wang Tang to ask me a few questions." "Wang Tang? That senior in the sophomore student council?" Miu Chu Chu pondered. "He just bumped into me this morning. So annoying, why is his face everywhere?" She asked me, "What's your relationship with him? Is there a grudge? Did you steal his girlfriend?" I laughed and said, "His woman? Not my type. He and I share a bit of history. Basically, we were switched at birth. I was only recently brought back home." After hearing that, Miu Chu Chu suddenly understood. "You're the one the entire high society is gossiping about. The true young master and that real versus fake young master story. I asked curiously, am I that famous? Mu Chu Chu said, incredibly famous. The wealthy family version of the civic cat for Prince scheme. It made the DNA testing services explode at all the private hospitals. Luckily, the Wang family doesn't have a daughter. Otherwise, people might have started rumors about you being the male lead of Autumn in my heart. Let's go, let's go. What's your next class? We can talk while we walk. Her way of speaking was very interesting. I followed her toward the classroom. After a few steps, remembering something, I turned back to Mi Ping. By the way, don't forget what I told you this morning. If it comes true, remember to send me some extra commission. Saying that, I followed Mu Chu Chu into the class, ignoring the reaction of Mi Ping's group. The three beside Mi Ping were left bewildered. Sister Ping, what did he say to you this morning? If I hadn't just reminded her, Mi Ping would have likely forgotten what I said earlier. With a look full of doubt, she replied, early this morning he told me to remind my brother to avoid bridges when he goes out tomorrow. Does he know your brother? Why does this sound so mysterious? Sister Ping, so do you plan to tell him? Sigh. I feel like he's not what we imagined. That Wang Teng guy, honestly, why didn't he make things clear for us, making us come all the way here to lose face? In truth, their relationship with Wang Teng wasn't actually that close. They were just social acquaintances. Coming to find me was half out of respect for Wang Teng, and the other half was just boredom-induced curiosity to see a show. Now feeling embarrassed in front of me, they shifted all the blame onto Wang Teng. Mi Ping understood everyone's thoughts, so she didn't join the discussion. She tightly gripped her phone, thinking about my expression when I spoke earlier. Finally, she sent her brother Mi Yan a message. Oppa. Avoid bridges when you go out tomorrow, okay? Mi Yan must have been busy, since he only sent back a question mark near noon. Are you checking horoscopes or fortune readings again? The word again was used perfectly. It seems Mi Yan had been bothered by Mi Ping many times before. Mi Ping, out of embarrassment and anger, typed rapidly, I am not. It's not that this time, an expert told me. Right now, she didn't even care if my words were accurate. All she wanted was to save face. She absolutely had to defend what she said. A very mysterious expert. The expert knew just by calculating with his fingers. In short, you must listen to me this time. Her words weren't wrong at all. Since I was just a freshman who knew no one, wasn't that indeed quite mysterious? The two siblings usually bickered with each other. Mi Yan instinctively replied, an expert. Do they know you usually check horoscopes? And buy agate stones for good luck? Mi Ping was so angry she was about to cry. Why do you keep bringing up things you shouldn't? Someone please just take this brother of mine away. Hurry up and lead him away for good riddance. After finishing all the morning classes, Wang Teng intended to call his close friends as usual to go out for lunch, but everyone wore a cold expression, saying they were busy and maybe next time. Clearly, they were showing their dissatisfaction. Wang Teng stood frozen in place, bewildered, not understanding what he had done wrong. During the lunch break, people were bustling about. Someone in a rush to eat at the cafeteria accidentally dropped their pen from their pocket. Wang Teng couldn't dodge in time, and a long, dark ink stain was smeared across his shirt. Wang Teng tried to call the person back, but the other party was completely oblivious, running far away in the blink of an eye. Left alone, he was so angry he gnashed his teeth. He had to settle for a quick bite to finish his meal. His mood didn't improve much during the afternoon classes. As dust fell and it was time to go home, the driver stopped at the gate, then went to a corner to smoke. When Wang Teng opened the car door, he realized I had been sitting in the back seat all along. After a long day of school, anyone else would look exhausted and worn out, but I still exuded a glowing, handsome appearance, as if not a single strand of hair was out of place. Seeing him get in, I glanced at him briefly, said nothing, and went back to playing with my phone. But Wang Teng's mood was already foul today, so being looked at by me like that made him feel wretched from head to toe. His anger suddenly erupted. He threw his bag into the car forcefully. What's that supposed to mean? I looked down at the designer bag rolling at my feet. I asked calmly, what about me? Is something wrong with you? Wang Teng's face darkened as he tugged at his shirt. Can't you see the stain on my clothes? If you want to laugh, go ahead and laugh. Don't just sit there laughing at me internally. Your fake attitude is truly disgusting. His hip was aching slightly. His friends had suddenly turned on him. His clothes were ruined. Thinking of all the bad luck that happened today, Wang Teng grew more furious the more he spoke, fuming until even his fingertips were trembling. I know you've disliked me since you came home yesterday. You think I took your place and I stole your life. You act like you don't care about anything on the outside, but you hate my guts deep down, don't you? Seeing him go too far, I raised my hand to signal him to stop. Everything you're saying is a total fabrication. Don't go making up your own wild theories. My indifferent attitude only made Wang Tang angrier. Wang Tang snapped, if you don't care, then why did you come back? Don't you just covet the Wang family's wealth and status too? Wealth and status? Hearing that, my voice carried a hint of sarcasm. What wealth and status does this Wang family even have? If I wanted those things, I could have as much as I wanted. I stared at Wang Tang, although my demeanor was calm, it exerted an invisible pressure, as if I could see right through to someone's soul. Naturally, I have my own reasons for returning to the Wang family. But following your logic, you're the one who treats the Wang family's money like trash, right? Then why, when you clearly knew you weren't the biological son, did you still stay here as if nothing had happened? Wang Tang was momentarily speechless, about to argue that his parents couldn't bear to let him go, when I continued. Yesterday when I arrived, the Wang family didn't even have the courtesy to greet me at the door. It seems someone purposefully kept them occupied. This morning, 4 girls also came looking for trouble. While they gained nothing from me, that aggressive, threatening behavior and those dark intentions, who instigated them? Wang Tang, you have far too many petty tricks up your sleeve. I'm in a good mood right now, so I won't bother with you. But I hope you know when to stop. I looked at him with the posture of a superior. Otherwise, you definitely won't want to find out the consequences of offending me. Furthermore, I believe I already warned you this morning that your fortune today wouldn't be very good. I withdrew my gaze, picking up my phone again, casually dropping a comment. Young man, don't go around not knowing your place. Remember to take advice next time. Wang Tang felt a chill run through his body. Only now did he recall that early this morning while playing the filial son, I had indeed told him that his fortune for today didn't look very good. At the time, he thought I was just being sarcastic for my own amusement. But now that I reminded him, connecting everything that had happened all day, he couldn't help but shudder in fear. The driver finished his cigarette and came back, only to see Wang Tang standing dazed outside the car, even trembling slightly. He couldn't help but ask, young master, the weather is turning cold. Please get in the car, lest you catch a cold. He almost called Wang Tang first young master as before. As the words left his mouth, he realized the title of first young master had changed hands, so he quickly corrected himself. He peeked at me sitting in the car, saw that I had no reaction, and was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. For some reason, this newly brought home first young master could exert such a heavy pressure. Guarding Nieyu's mother, after she hung up on Nieyu, she hurried to the She family home. Nieyu's mother's real name was She Huili, the youngest daughter of the She family. She had an eldest brother above her. Originally, her eldest brother held the power in the She family, but a few years ago, her eldest brother, sister-in-law, and second nephew unfortunately passed away in a plane crash. The eldest nephew, She Fan Huan, had already joined the military, so the She estate could only be handed over to the third granddaughter, She Ruyan, who was still a minor at the time. She Ruyan may have been young, but she was a born business genius. In just 6 months, she completely took over the entire She family business, and in the following years, she made the She group grow stronger and stronger without stopping. At first, people just called her the third young lady of the She family, but lately, everyone addressed her as Third Sister She. During that time, She Hula's husband would often come home and exclaim to her, saying that when he went out for work, as long as people knew he was Third Sister Ta's uncle-in-law, their service attitude would completely change. They even said with such a daughter, the She clan would surely prosper. But perhaps the heavens were jealous of such talent. Or maybe the She family truly hit a streak of bad luck. Last spring, She Ruyan suddenly collapsed. Though she quickly regained consciousness, her body only grew weaker day by day. Countless experts and doctors from home and abroad were invited, but all examinations failed to find a specific cause. She Ruyan managed to hold on until last autumn. Then she was officially bedridden, unable to get up. After the diagnosis, she was concluded to be in a vegetative state. Until this summer. The doctor said her internal organs were severely failing, and she probably wouldn't survive another year. 1 year, meaning by next summer, and currently, it's almost late autumn. She Huili thought of this, and her heart couldn't help but ache. Sometimes, looking at She Ruyan lying in her sickbed, she couldn't stop herself from resenting the unfairness of fate. The She family had always performed good deeds. Their ancestors had accumulated so much merit, and every descendant of the She family was a person of virtue. So why did misfortune keep striking the She family? After death stole her brother, sister-in-law, and beloved nephew, would it still not let go of her youngest niece? She Huili felt immense suffering in her heart, but before entering the house, she still had to look in the mirror to compose herself, fearful that the old master would see her sadness. The She family currently relied entirely on the resilience of elder She. The old man was advanced in age, and yet he had to suffer the continuous loss of his wife, child, and soon, his grandchild. How could she let him worry about her on top of everything else? Father, I'm home. Shi Huli walked into the living room and saw Elder Shi sitting on the sofa, wearing glasses and flipping through financial reports. Seeing his daughter arrive, Elder Shi took off his glasses and rubbed his temples. Today's a work day. Why have you come here like this? Shi Huli glanced at the servant standing nearby. The servant understood and went inside to prepare tea for them. Elder Shi asked curiously, "Do you have something important to say?" Shi Huli then told him the whole story of Mia Yu. She hesitated slightly. Xiao Yu said, "That master knew someone in our family was in trouble with just one look. But the master said he needs to see the person himself. I didn't dare to agree on my own, so I wanted to ask your opinion." Elder Shi shook his head and sighed. "A master? Have we not invited enough masters already? Haven't so many famous masters already examined Ruyan? Unless it's truly a hidden expert whom no one knows. Perhaps this is heaven's will or destiny. Because in their hearts, they understood one thing. How could there be so many hidden experts in this world? Shi really had assumed that Elder Shi meant he was refusing. But Elder Shi let out a sigh and continued. However, I've always been unwilling to give up. If that person could see through Ruyan's condition, then we might as well invite him to take a look. Whether he succeeds or not, we will prepare a generous fee for that master. Seeing the deep wrinkles etched on Elder Taz's face, Shi Ruli's nose suddenly felt sharp with tears. Shi Ruyan was the granddaughter of the Shi family. Elder Shi was the one who loved her the most. His affection for her was the deepest. But when something happened to Ruyan, anyone could collapse in despair. Except for Elder Shi, who was absolutely not allowed to do so. Because the Shi family still needed someone at the helm. As for Shi Ruyan, there always needed to be someone tirelessly looking for ways to save her. Every time there was hope, it was followed by the same amount of despair. Until today. Even Elder Shi didn't dare to hold on to any fragile hope anymore. Shi Huili sat a bit longer to drink tea with him. The father and daughter chatted for a while longer before she left the house. As she almost reached the exit of the Shi estate, Shi Huili suddenly stopped. She looked up at the magpies perched on the cinnamon tree out front. People always say a magpie flying in is a sign of good luck. So when will a miracle actually appear for the Shi family? Shi Huili immediately sent a message to Nia Yu, telling him to schedule a time with that master. Nia Yu then came to ask me. I calculated for a moment and said, let's decide on this Friday night. After Nia Yu replied to his mother, he curiously turned to me and asked, does even choosing a day have rules? I replied, of course. Not only do you need to pick the right day, but you also have to pick the right time. Otherwise, why does the ancient almanac always specify that weddings or funerals must choose an auspicious time and month? Nia Yu couldn't help but exclaim, then your discipline is truly complicated, isn't it? It's not actually that complicated. We also have certain scientific laws to follow. Hearing that, Nia Yu shook his head vigorously. It truly is a novel experience to hear the least scientific person on Earth talk about science. It's indeed an extremely interesting experience. A day passed very quickly. In the afternoon after school, I carried my bag out of the school gates. My mind was still on Nia Yu's miraculous expression earlier. Just what kind of person would it be to have such a pitch-black aura of death emanating from them? Zhang Heng. Mi Ping shouted my name while running towards me at full speed. I turned around to look. Mi Ping stopped right in front of me, panting for breath. I glanced over her face once, then decisively held out a hand, handed over. Mi Ping, while trying to catch her breath, looked at me in bewilderment. I told you, a correct fortune reading requires a fee. Your brother's business has been settled. You're not planning to stiff me, are you? Mi Ping replied with an extremely complex mood. Are you truly that confident in yourself? I've never calculated anything incorrectly. I gave a slight smile and continued. However, yesterday I couldn't be certain whether you'd listen to me or not. After all, you and Wang Tang seem to be quite close. That your brother could avoid disaster this time is thanks to the result of your own personal choice. Mi Ping instinctively denied it immediately. I don't have any close relationship with Wang Tang. We're just acquaintances in the same social circle. I don't care about that. It doesn't matter to me. You just need to tell me that I guessed right. Didn't I? Extremely accurate, Mi Ping admitted immediately. It turned out that Mi Ping's brother, Mi Yan, went out to meet a client today. While returning to the company in the afternoon, he had originally chosen a route leading onto. They were about to cross an overpass. At that moment, the car was less than 100 meters from the bridge's entrance. Mi Nam suddenly felt a surge of intuition and remembered. Yesterday, his younger sister had specifically warned him. She told him to stay far away from bridges. Fortunately, he was in no hurry. So he told the driver to turn around and take a different route. Who could have guessed? Just as the driver finished turning the car around, a thunderous crash echoed through the air. They looked toward the source of the sound. That very bridge had snapped in half and collapsed to the ground. Now it was nothing but a pile of rubble. Minam and the driver stood there, paralyzed with shock. If they hadn't turned the car around just now, they would have certainly been crossing that bridge at this very moment, even if they had survived by some miracle. Severe injuries would have been unavoidable. The way the driver looked at Minam had completely changed. It was as if he were looking at a celestial being. Trembling, he asked, "President Mi, how did you know this bridge was impassable?" Minam also shook his head, trembling. "I didn't know either. My sister told me she met a great master yesterday. He warned me to stay away from bridges today. When I saw the bridge just now, I immediately remembered his words." The driver also knew that Minam had a younger sister. It seems Miss Mi has encountered a true expert. Thankfully, no one was crossing the bridge when it collapsed, so there were no casualties. Minam and the driver stood at the scene, trying to calm their emotions. Then they hurriedly drove back. While still in the car, Minam recounted the event to Mi Ping. He even transferred a large sum of money to her. He told her to invite the master to their home for a visit. If the master doesn't want to come, don't force him. Just make sure to reward him very generously. Mi Ping found it hard to believe after hearing the whole story, but she knew very well that her own brother would never joke about something like this. She asked for my account number and transferred the money. Thinking about what her brother just endured, she was still terrified. "Regardless, I am deeply grateful to you. My parents also really want to invite you to dinner. When would be convenient for you?" I thought for a moment and replied, "I have plans this week. Let's make it next week. I will go with you next Friday evening." Mi Ping hurriedly agreed. At noon, after all the classes ended, I informed the driver that I would be visiting a classmate's home. I would find my own way back later. Then I stepped into the Ni family's car. Mi Yu looked even more nervous than I was sitting in the car. He was restless, as if sitting on pins and needles the entire way. He was constantly fidgeting. As we neared the hospital, beads of sweat had even formed on his forehead. Seeing me casually playing on my phone, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Aren't you worried at all? What if you encounter a situation you can't handle?" I replied calmly, "This isn't the only thing I might not be able to solve. What is there to be worried about?" Mi Yu was a bit surprised to hear that, though he hadn't known me for long. The impression I always gave him was that everything in the world was under control. It seemed as if I knew everything and could do anything. Sometimes the words I spoke carried a sense of undeniable arrogance. So he secretly speculated that I was surely the disciple of some hermit, master with incredibly profound power. This was the first time he had heard me utter words that sounded like an admission of failure. So there really are things you can't solve. I gave a soft chuckle. What a strange thing to say. I'm not an immortal. And even if I were a god, there would still be times of powerlessness. Like what, for example? Mia Yu pressed. For example, the fact that I returned to the Wang family. Or the fact that I'm coming here with you today. Mia Yu asked in shock. What does this have to do with the Wang family? And what does it have to do with me? Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. I put my phone away. All right, we've arrived. I was the first to step out of the car. Standing before the gates of this private hospital, I looked up at the chaotic energy field above the building. I fell into deep thought. Is this where your cousin is staying? Mi Yu led me inside. He had already told me some of it, regarding Xie Ruyan's condition, as well as his relationship with the Xie family. My grandfather and mother are both at the hospital. My father is away on a business trip. He couldn't make it today. They used a private elevator to go up to the special VIP floor. Someone immediately approached with a security scanner. Mi Yu apologized to me. I'm sorry. Security checks are mandatory here. I just shrugged. I understand. After we both completed the check, under the close watch of guards standing shoulder to shoulder, we entered Xie Ruyan's hospital room. When the door opened, Elder Xie and Xie Huili both stood up. Although Nie Yu had told them beforehand that I was his college classmate, and that I was very young, but he had never mentioned that I was this handsome. A flicker of surprise appeared in Xie Huili's eyes. She quickly stepped forward on her father's behalf. Greetings, Master. Thank you for taking the trouble to visit us today. Elder Xie nodded in greeting. He showed no sign of looking down on me. He greeted me very politely. Greetings, Master. Please have a seat. Xiao Yu, quickly pour the Master a glass of water. There is no need for water. I'll take a look and then head out. My gaze swept over Elder Xie and Xie Huili once. Then I withdrew it with satisfaction. Very good. You are all blessed with great fortune. Elder Xie felt that my gaze was like one that could see right through a person's soul. A spark of hope suddenly ignited within him. He stepped aside, revealing the person lying on the hospital bed. I'm sure Xiao Yu has already told you, Master. This is my granddaughter, Xie Ruyan. I closely observed the woman whose eyes were tightly shut. She lay so still that it seemed even her breath had ceased. Though her face was thin and pale, devoid of any blood, one could still recognize how extraordinary her features and beauty must have originally been. Delicate eyebrows, deep-set eyes, a high, elegant nose, thin and pale lips. Under the bright lights of the ward, she possessed a fragile, melancholic beauty. However, that was not what I was looking at. What I saw surrounding the girl's body was a deathly aura so thick it had almost condensed into droplets, and mixed within that deathly aura were strange black mists. I reached out and made a grasping motion. I caught a cluster of black mist and held it in my palm to examine it. I discovered a faint, barely visible white thread within the black mist. It was pointing directly toward a distant location. I began to calculate. The three from the Shi family saw that I stood there for a long time without saying a word, and even performed a strange hand gesture. Everyone was on edge. Nia Yu couldn't help but ask, "Did you figure something out?" I tightened my fingers, crushing the cluster of black mist in my palm. I looked toward the Xie family members, pondered for a moment, and then spoke. I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The Xie family members looked at each other with concern. At a time like this, what does good or bad news even matter? With Xie Ruyan's current condition, even a glimmer of hope would be good news. And as for bad news, how much worse could it possibly get? Nia Yu quickly replied, "Give us the good news first." I said calmly, "Your cousin. That is, Xie Ruyan. She isn't suffering from any terminal illness or medical mystery. She's been harmed by someone else's hand. This is something I can solve. Give me 1 week to prepare. I can make her wake up." The entire Xi family was stunned for a moment, and then they erupted with joy. Elder Xi suddenly stood up. He asked tremulously to confirm, "Are your words true, Master?" I affirmed, "Of course it's true." Xi Huili wept with joy. She quickly supported her father. "This is wonderful, truly wonderful. Ruyan can be saved." In that moment, they didn't even care when I said that someone had intentionally harmed her. As long as Xi Ruyan could recover, everything else could be dealt with later. Miyu also shouted with joy, "Mom, grandfather, cousin can be saved. She's going to be saved." Elder Jia was deeply moved. His face couldn't help but light up. But then he noticed my still composed expression. I repeated, "As I said, there is still bad news." Their excitement instantly cooled. "Master, what is this bad news you speak of?" I was silent for a moment before speaking. This incident was caused by sabotage. Therefore, I can save her. However, her own fate is extremely unusual. I'm afraid she may not live past the age of 30. The hospital room, just now filled with joy, suddenly fell into dead silence. At this, Niayu gasped in shock. "What do you mean my cousin won't live past 30? He asked frantically, "What do you mean by an unusual fate? Is there really no way to save her?" I shook my head and asked, "Have you ever heard the saying, the sun reaches its zenith only to decline? The moon becomes full only to wane. All things in this world decline once they reach their peak. Fate is the same. Your cousin's fate is too good. So good that it shouldn't exist in this era of peace and prosperity. And it shouldn't have appeared in your family. I will leave it at that. Everyone here is intelligent. They understood the words I left unspoken. Having said that, I added, but I can help extend her lifespan by another 2 years. Even with 2 more years, she would only live to 32. And Xie Ruyan is already 25 years old." Hearing this, Elder Xie suddenly felt his vision go dark. He staggered back a step, having to steady himself against a table to keep from collapsing. Xi Huli stood frozen, even forgetting to rush to her father's aid. Only now did they understand why. I had said there was both good news and bad news. Xie Ruyan being able to wake up is certainly joyful news, but her being short-lived, fated to die so young, with only a few years left to live, that truly is a piece of devastating news. Niyu looked blankly at Xie Huili and Elder Xie. Suddenly, he didn't know if it was better for his cousin to wake up, or if it would be better for her never to wake up at all. The feeling of just being given a massive surge of hope. making one think they've found a way out of despair, only to be struck with a death sentence in the blink of an eye. It was like being cast down into the deepest abyss of hell. It was truly far too cruel for any person to bear. When Xia Ruyan eventually wakes up, how will they face her and what will they say? Are they supposed to say, "You don't have much longer to live"? Now the only sound in the hospital room was the sound of heavy, ragged breathing, a testament to the turmoil in the hearts of the 3 Xie family members. In the end, it was Elder Xie who spoke up to decide, no matter what the future holds. For now, we must save Ruyan at all costs. Perhaps the master will find another way in the future. This time, Ruyan had been in a coma for so long. They once thought they had reached a dead end beyond all help. And yet, didn't they still encounter me? Everything in this world is hard to predict. The path ahead may not be a complete dead end, perhaps in just a few more years. Xia Ruyan might encounter a new stroke of fate. I glanced meaningfully at Xia Ruyan on the hospital bed, then said, "Indeed, perhaps she will find a new chance in the future. No one can say for sure. I agree with your way of thinking." Elder Xia regained his composure. "Master, what do we need to prepare this time? Is there anything our Xia family can do to help? I will prepare everything myself. There are many things outsiders wouldn't understand. If I left it to others, it might ruin everything. Next Saturday at noon, just have Miayu come and pick me up." As soon as I finished speaking, both Elder Xia and Xia Huili were slightly startled. Elder Xia looked at me intently for a while and then asked, "Master, are you Wang Jianguo's grandson?" I nodded slightly. "That's right. But some incidents happened along the way, so I didn't grow up in the Wang household. I never even met him. Is something the matter?" Elder Xia and Xia Huili exchanged glances. Elder Xia hesitated slightly. "Well, Master, I don't know if you've heard of this before. You and Ruyan have actually been betrothed since childhood." As he finished speaking, my eyelid twitched slightly. "You know about the Wang family's business? Didn't they say that the Wang family's scandal of the real and fake young masters was known everywhere, to the point that everyone in the circle already knew? Or is it that the Shi family has sharper eyes and ears, and thus paid no mind to the common rumors out there? Elder Shi had indeed heard some faint whispers. I immediately questioned, "Then how can you be so certain that the person betrothed to your granddaughter is me?" Because for all these years, Wang Teng was the one carrying my identity. Elder Shi leaned on his cane and smiled. "When the betrothal was made years ago, your mother had only just become pregnant. Your grandparents brought your mother to my house to visit my wife. At that time, Ruyan was playing right nearby. They said if your mother gave birth to a girl, they would recognize each other as sworn sisters, but if it were a boy, then the two would be betrothed. This childhood betrothal was actually intended for the child inside your mother's womb, who had not yet been born. If calculated that way, that person can only be you." Only now did I understand the whole story. I glanced at the woman lying on the hospital bed, thinking, no wonder when I examined her fate earlier, I felt such a strange sense of connection. It turns out it's because there was already karma between us. It was getting late. I didn't want to linger any longer, so I bid farewell to the Xia family. Elder Xia intended to have Mia Yu drive me home, but I declined. No need. Just have the driver take me back. We'll see each other again next Saturday. So the Xia family had to see me off to the hospital gates, waiting until my car had disappeared from sight. Xi Huili also told her son to head home. Then she turned to Elder Xi and asked with a puzzled look, "Father, why did you mention the childhood betrothal just now?" Even though hearing the news that he was originally a Wang, she was somewhat surprised as well. But most young people nowadays deeply resent these kinds of arranged betrothals. What if Jiang Heng felt uncomfortable hearing that and refused to save Ruyan? What then? Her father had spent his entire life in the business world. Could he really have failed to foresee this? After a night of riding an emotional roller coaster, the fluctuating emotions had started to take their toll on Elder Shi. He was beginning to feel weary. He sighed softly and explained, "I did it to remind him." Xie Huili still didn't understand. Remind him of what? Since the day old man Wang passed away, and especially since his wife stopped caring about family matters. The Wan family's fortunes have clearly begun to decline. Over the past few years, each year has been worse than the last. And as for old Wang's only son, you know how he is. He has always been an incompetent good-for-nothing. Our two families were originally very close friends, though we have gradually drifted apart over the last 10 years. But at least someone from the older generation is still around. Elder Xia still occasionally kept an eye on news of his old friend. Elder Xia continued, "I also once reminded Ruyan that if she met anyone from the Wang family in business, she should help them if possible. But unfortunately, under Wang Fu's leadership, The Wang family's business has gone from bad to worse. Even if our Xi family wanted to help, we wouldn't know where to start. Elder Xi gave a soft, cold snort, though telling the child about this might seem a bit ridiculous. But once they brought their biological son back, it's only natural that they should care for him properly. But look at what that child is wearing, what he's using. Is there a single expensive item among them? Whenever the Wang family is mentioned, his attitude is utterly indifferent. He hasn't even bothered to change his last name back yet. With just a little thought, you can see clearly how that Wang family has been treating him. Listening to her father's analysis, she really began to try to recall. But the more she remembered, she could only smile bitterly. Father, I really can't remember what he was wearing. My only impression is that he was incredibly handsome, and his aura was truly extraordinary. He looked like a young master who had been pampered since birth, nothing like a child who grew up in a remote rural area at all. Elder Shay said sternly, "Never speak those words again. What do you mean, not like growing up in poverty? Is it impossible for a genius to be born from hardship? Must one be born in luxury to be considered a hero? If we go back a few hundred years in the Shay lineage, we were also just commoners with mud on our feet. Who are we to look down on anyone?" Shi Huili bowed her head in apology. "I've been influenced by spending too many years in high society. I will take this to heart and never speak like that again." Elder Shi glanced at her and continued, "Everyone honors the Shi family as the premier noble house. That title doesn't just come from money, power, or status. It lies in our cultural roots and the character passed down through generations." Elder Shi didn't want to lecture her further. He shifted the subject back to me. "The Wang family treats him so poorly. Bringing him back surely means they're harboring some other scheme. I heard rumors that that brat Wang Teng has been very close with Diyoung's daughter recently. Shi Diyoung is Elder Shi's second cousin, branch from a different part of the Shi lineage. That branch has suddenly become very active this year. Speaking of which, Shay Huili couldn't hide her anger when Ruyan was in charge. Every one of these side branches was subservient and obedient. Who would have thought that when the tiger falls, the monkeys would act like kings?" She reflected for a moment and continued, "Diyoung has an only daughter named Shi Xuan. Word is she's involved in a dubious relationship with a Wang boy." She finally couldn't help but let out a cold, contemptuous laugh. Look at the allies they've chosen to place their trust in. Nothing but a bunch of mediocre nobodies who lack any real substance. Elder Shi nodded slightly. That's the one. The Wang family didn't know before, where their own flesh and blood had been wandering all this time. They were certain they only had one son in the house. Yet ironically, that very son is bound by betrothal to someone at death's door like Ruyin. They are unwilling to let their son marry Ruyin. But on the other hand, they dare not offend our Si family. They must be racking their brains for a way out. Just then, they heard they had another biological son. Isn't this the perfect chance to kill two birds with one stone? Si Huili slammed the table and stood up in a rage. Who does that Wang family think they are? To have the audacity to look down on our Ruyin. No matter what happens, the Wang family is nothing more than social climbers. Suddenly, Si Huili remembered the master. The Wangs want that other son to marry into the side branch, and then push the master onto our main family? Sharpness still glinted on Elder Shi's aged face. The Wang family is truly a joke. Our Shi family was never one to force a marriage. If they really wanted nothing more to do with our Ruyin, they could have just said it plainly and been done with it. We aren't so petty as to use an old empty promise to coerce or bind them in any way. And yet those people are greedy. They don't want to lose the Shi family name. But they also want to establish a connection with Diyoung family. They're even willing to use their biological son as a pawn for profit. What bottomless greed. Once Ruyin's affairs are settled, I will have to clean out those people who are harboring such burning ambition. Shay Huili knew her father well. Despite his age, his mind was still incredibly sharp. Everything he did was calculated with extreme care, so she had nothing to worry about. She sighed with emotion. On the other hand, the master truly has a great destiny with our family. He was betrothed to Ruyin before he was even born. Now, after circling the globe, they finally met, and has even become Ruyin's savior. If in the future, never mind, matters of fate like this should be left to heaven's will. One cannot force destiny even if they want to. And she also understood very well that She Ruyin utterly detested this kind of forced marriage. Previously, as soon as she learned of her betrothal to the Wang son, she had vehemently opposed it. She even boldly declared that once the Wang child grew up, she would personally go and cancel that ridiculous betrothal. If She Ruyin hadn't suddenly fallen into a deep coma last year, then perhaps by now the betrothal between the Wang and Xie families would have long since ceased to exist. As for me, a person possessing mysterious occult arts, I never had any interest in ordinary romantic entanglements. What a pity for such a talented and beautiful couple. I fear they have fate but no destiny to walk the same path. When I returned to the Wang residence, I was surprised to find Wang Fu and Mrs. Wang still sitting in the living room. Seeing me stroll back so late, Wang Fu's face instantly darkened, looking extremely displeased. Driver Zhao Li said you went to a friend's house? I only gave a faint, indifferent grunt of acknowledgement. Wang Fu pressed, was it a boy or a girl? Haven't you just arrived in this bustling city? And yet you've already managed to make friends so quickly. I slowly walked toward the stairs, while casually replying, just a male classmate. I know someone like you used to live recklessly, with no regard for rules. But since you've shown your face back here in the Wang family, you better discipline yourself and follow every rule here. I leaned slightly against the banister and turned to look at him, with a face full of lethargy and indifference. Well, you said it yourself just now. I'm used to living as I please. I can't change it. I'm not exactly a high-born young master anyway, so don't expect me to conform to all those young masters' rules. You must follow them. Wang Fu saw my indifferent attitude, realizing words were useless. He immediately flared his nostrils and shouted, "Stand up straight for me." What kind of attitude is that? How dare you speak to your elder like that while being taught? A strange and ridiculous feeling suddenly rose within me. I had heard people say before that there are many parents, or those who claim to be elders, who always try to force children into a mold of their own making. They are obsessed with molding the child into the ideal form they desire. And if the child happens to stray from the path they've laid out, a storm of fury will immediately rain down on them without mercy. And when those people run out of logical arguments, when they have no more moral grounds to persuade, they will immediately hide behind the shield of their status as elders, using a fake moral code to suppress and force the child into submission, scrutinizing their attitude and questioning everything, just to force a surrender. It seems this Wang Fu fellow is no different from them, is he? In his dreams, perhaps a perfect son is one who is weak, easily pulled by strings and manipulated like a puppet, right? He must want someone exactly like that Wang Teng guy. I narrowed my eyes, looking at Wang Fu with amusement, as if watching a play. In this world, aside from the constraints of the law, it seems there is nothing that I am absolutely required to follow. Even though we share a blood connection, there isn't a shred of familial affection between us. For both sides, this is nothing more than a chance encounter in this brief lifetime. I do not believe I need to abide by the rules of the Wang family. Father Wang was so choked with rage he couldn't speak. Mother Wang hurriedly poured him a cup of tea. Why are you getting so worked up? Aren't you worried about your health? Quickly, have some water. She turned her head to look at me. Heng, apologize to your father right now. How could you speak to him like that? From the time he was small, Tang has never spoken to his parents this way. Father Wang's expression darkened. No need for that. I see that our Wang family can no longer control him. It just so happens you still have a marriage engagement. Father Wang said to me, to prevent you from doing something foolish in the future and bringing shame upon our Wang family, it's better that we arrange your engagement soon. Mother Wang's expression softened, and she added, this engagement was actually set since you were still in the womb. Now that you've grown up, if you don't marry immediately, you can at least get engaged. The other family's status is very high, far more powerful than our own. Technically, our Wang family is the one social climbing. You don't need to worry about being at a disadvantage. Father Wang flipped through the desk calendar with a half-serious look. Tomorrow, I will pay a visit to the C family to finalize the engagement quickly, so you'll stop being so rebellious. Mother Wang said softly, isn't that a bit too fast? Our son has only been back for a few days. We haven't even had the chance to show him much care. Fast? What do you mean fast? Father Wang didn't care and shot me a glance. Father Wang said sarcastically, I've already wasted a fortune, racking my brains to find a university for him to attend. And look at him, out late at night with classmates, and the moment he gets home he starts talking back. If we just let him stay in this house, who knows what kind of trouble he'll cause. The two of them played off each other, good cop and bad cop, and in the blink of an eye everything was decided. Watching from the sidelines, I couldn't help but find it ridiculous. If I hadn't figured out by now why the Wang parents were putting on this act, then I would have wasted 2 lifetimes. Recalling that pale, beautiful woman from the hospital tonight, I thought to myself with amusement, ruler of the Shi family, being looked down upon by an ordinary elite couple is quite entertaining indeed. With the Shi family's status, even if Xie Ruyan were to die, there would be plenty of people wanting to marry even her memorial tablet. The Wang parents didn't save such a great opportunity to climb the ladder for Wang Tang, but gave it to me instead, so they definitely have a scheme. What could the reason be? I recalled Wang Tang's face, where a hint of a romantic entanglement was visible, and then thought of Miyu's conversation with him, complaining that the Xie family branches were making moves. And suddenly, I had a pretty good guess. The Wang family has calculated this very carefully. Since they feel certain Xie Ruyan will die, and the branches hope to take power, they wanted Wang Tang to marry her, but fear the main family might still have a trump card. So they decided to confirm my childhood engagement to Xie Ruyan instead. By doing this, no matter whose hands the Xie family falls into, they won't lose out. The only difference is which side will be more profitable. But looking at them, it's clear they mostly view me as a sacrificial pawn. A mocking smile appeared on the corner of my lips as I interrupted the Wang parents' dialogue. I understand. You two finish your discussion and let me know the result. The living room suddenly fell into a dead silence. The Wang parents looked at each other in surprise. They didn't expect me not to ask a single question about the engagement, letting them manipulate me without resistance. They had prepared all sorts of plans to deal with me, but now it seemed none of them were needed. If there's nothing else, I'm going to bed. I walked halfway up the stairs, suddenly turned back and said, I read a line in a book recently. Let me share it with you. A virtuous soul finds daily peace, while a deceptive mind toils in vain. Isn't that quite interesting? I asked and answered my own question. Besides, I didn't mean anyone to answer. After saying that, I went straight to my room. The Wang parents listened to me talk on and on, but understood absolutely nothing. On the contrary, they found their biological son incredibly bizarre. Mother Wang whispered he really was raised in the middle of nowhere. In the end, he can't compare to A Tang at all. Just then, the butler had left the living room because of the unstable atmosphere. He stood behind the door and happened to hear what I said as I was leaving. Based on the origin and pronunciation, he did a quick search. He heard Mother Wang sigh, and then looked at the explanation of those words on his phone screen. His expression became serious. A virtuous soul finds daily peace, while a deceptive mind toils in vain. It means that those who live uprightly have peaceful souls, and their fortune becomes increasingly favorable. But for the deceitful and fake, all their schemes will eventually be for naught. Does the young master already know something? Should he warn the Wang parents? The butler hesitated for a moment, then went into the kitchen to warm some milk and brought it to my room. I was standing by the window looking out. Hearing the knock, I didn't turn around and just said, "Come in." The butler's attitude was very respectful. "Eldest young master, seeing you returned late today, I warmed a glass of milk for you. Please drink it before sleeping. It will help you rest better." He placed the milk on the nightstand, then held the tray and looked toward me. I didn't turn around, nor did I say a word. The butler lowered his eyes with a complex mood. Then, "Eldest young master, please sleep early. Tomorrow is Saturday. Breakfast will be served 1 hour later than usual. If you wish to dine with the madam and the others, you can adjust your time accordingly. Or if you prefer to eat at another time, that is also fine." He bowed slightly, preparing to take his leave, when he heard me ask coldly, "You have a son, don't you?" The butler's entire body stiffened as he looked at me in shock. Being the butler, he naturally knew every movement of the Wang household like the back of his hand. I had been at the Wang house for a few days and had never chatted with anyone. How did I know he had a son? The window glass at night acted like a faint mirror, capable of reflecting a person's expression. Standing by the window, I didn't need to turn to look at him, but through the glass beside me, I could clearly see his face. I smiled faintly. "You don't need to be so tense." I just asked casually. "There's no other meaning." The butler composed himself. "My apologies, eldest young master. I just didn't expect that you, having only been back for such a short time, would already know about my family situation." I shook my head. "It wasn't over a short time, but from the very first moment I met you." I gestured with my chin toward the nearby bookshelf. "Your son has been ill lately, hasn't he? In the third compartment from the left on that shelf, take a triangular talisman from the box and place it under your son's pillow. He will surely recover within 3 days." The butler's eyes immediately found a black leather box. When he opened it, he didn't look at anything else, taking only a triangular talisman and clutching it in his palm. He used to be a follower of Elder Wang and had met many powerful figures, so he guessed my abilities almost instantly. No wonder my aura and presence were so extraordinary. No wonder I said I knew his situation from our first meeting. The butler was filled with awe and shock. Before coming upstairs, his hesitant thoughts were now completely resolved. He bowed again, even lower this time. "Eldest young master, Is there anything you need me to do? Not for now. I thought to myself that talking to intelligent people is indeed refreshing. If there is in the future, I will seek you out. The implication was that, if I didn't seek him out, he needn't do anything. The butler signaled his understanding. As he helped me close the door, he couldn't help but take a quick glance at me. I remained by the window, though it was unclear what I was looking at. Before going to sleep, I perform a divination out of habit. Ever since coming to this world, I've cast a hexagram for myself every night. Except for one time last year, when an anomaly appeared. All my previous divinations had been consistent, but today would certainly be different. After my fingers moved with lightning speed, I suddenly looked up, a radiant light burning in my eyes. I had already been lying down, but now I sat up immediately, took paper and pen from the cabinet, and began calculating based on the numbers. By the time I finished my deduction and confirmation, it was nearly 3 a.m. I let out a long sigh of relief with no trace of exhaustion on my face, but rather filled with joy. Today, you asked me, so there are things even you can't resolve. I replied, of course. For example, returning to the Wang family. You didn't understand my meaning, but I alone knew that if I hadn't returned, I would have certainly died. It's as they say, extreme passion is short-lived, and extreme brilliance brings self-harm. Just as Xia Ruyan's fate is noble to the extreme, making it difficult for the world to accommodate her, I, who understand the secrets of heaven and possess supernatural gifts, am also destined to have a short life. Or to put it another way, those in the metaphysical arts often suffer from 5 destitutions and 3 deficiencies. The 5 destitutions refer to being widowed, orphaned, childless, alone, or disabled. The 3 deficiencies are wealth, life, and power. What I suffer from is the most severe, a deficiency of life. In my previous life, I was born into an ancient martial family with supreme cultivation methods to prolong my years, and an evolving spatial treasure providing spirit herbs. Yet I still couldn't escape death's grasp at age 25. To be honest, I didn't expect to be able to live on in a different way. The real son of the Wang family was switched at birth. The couple who took the wrong baby died early in a traffic accident, leaving behind a boy less than 3 years old who starved to death alone at home. When those small eyes opened again, the hollow feeling in my stomach almost caused me to pass out. I managed to find some crackers in the house, then stepped on a chair to reach the marble counter in the kitchen, boiling water just to stay alive. The scrawny child in the kitchen, with a pale face, knelt before the kettle, eating and drinking greedily. The original owner's grandfather, Jiang Hongren, heard the news and rushed to the city. The moment he pushed open the door, he saw that sight. His aged eyes blurred with tears, and he held me tightly right then and there, weeping. Jiang Hongren was a practitioner of the metaphysical arts, living in a remote village in the southwest. He settled the estate of the original parents, then took me back to the southwest. He had lost his wife in middle age and was lonely in his old age. Actually, he was quite awkward at raising a grandchild, but he soon discovered I was unusually intelligent, possessing an incredible natural talent for metaphysics. While others read the I Ching and Han Long Jing 100 times, I only needed a glance to memorize them, while others studied feng shui and law. Fumbling slowly with a compass, I only needed to stand on high ground and look down to immediately see the secrets, while others wrote talismans and scripts, having to bathe and light incense, praying to gods without success. I only needed a flick of my wrist to produce a masterpiece. Jiang Hongren's higher understanding of metaphysical learning was completely overturned by me. You must know that in this world, no one is perfect and nothing is complete. All extraordinary achievements require paying an extraordinary price. It's as the saying goes, every sip and every bite is predestined. Every effect has a cause. If there's a result, there must be a reason. Sure enough, when Jiang Hongren deduced my fate and fortune, he discovered I couldn't live past the age of 20. And I was already 15 at that time. Jiang Hongren was overcome with grief and fell ill. Conversely, it was I who brewed medicine for him, while comforting him. What are you afraid of? A genius like me. Living 1 year in this world is like others living 10. Even if I only live to 20, it's still better than most people living to 100. Jiang Hongren asked hoarsely, "Did you know all along? With such innate talent, how could you not have performed a reading for yourself?" I admitted it in silence. Jiang Hongren asked why I didn't tell him sooner. If there had been more time, perhaps he could have found a way. I smiled. Then you also knew long ago that I am not your biological grandson. So why didn't you tell me? The two of us looked at each other, silent for a moment, then burst into laughter at the same time. Jiang Hongren laughed and sighed. So you even knew about that. Sometimes I feel you really aren't like a child at all. Whether you're my blood grandson or not, what does it matter? Over all these years, we may not be blood, but we are closer than kin. Yes, from a very long time ago. I had seen through the truth of the original owner's identity. If I had truly wanted to return to the Wang family, I had 10,000 ways to do so easily. But I never gave it a thought. The old man Zhang and I live in this small village, and life was extremely comfortable. I had no grand desires regarding my lifespan. In my previous life, I had divine protection and spirit elixirs, struggling until the age of 25, but ultimately couldn't escape the pursuit of heavenly law. In this life, this body's aptitude is limited, making cultivation impossible, so there was no point in wasting effort. But Jiang Hongren wouldn't agree. He scoured every ancient text and rare manuscript, trying to find a way to break my destiny, urging me every day to find a solution. I said, "It's beyond cure." He glared and shouted, "Aren't you a genius? Is there any genius this foolish, surrendering to fate without even trying? Get up and think of a way." This old man doesn't want to experience the white-haired, sending away the black-haired ever again. I'm still counting on you to burn incense for me in the future. Perhaps his final words touched my heart. I began to search for a path to resolve it, but as I cast hexagrams day after day, I still saw no sign of change. Until a year ago, after high school graduation, I suddenly woke up late one night. Filled with intuition, I performed a calculation and discovered a faint glimmer of hope. And this sliver of hope vaguely pointed toward the north. The next day, when Jiang Hongren found out, he immediately wanted to pack bags and set out with me toward the north. It was I who stopped him again. This chance is very slim, and it hasn't shown specifically what it is. I don't know how long I'll have to wander out there. You are old now. Just stay home and wait for my news. So I set off alone with my money and belongings, traveling across the north. A year later, while appraising antiques in a shop, I received a call from the Wang family. The other end asked, "May I ask if this is young Master Jiang Heng?" The matter is like this. There is something you probably need to know. Please remain calm. I looked up to the distant horizon where a golden light shone with majestic brilliance. Then I called Jiang Hongren. I've received a call from my biological parents. It was the Wang family from the imperial capital calling for me. Their intentions are impure. This trip will likely be turbulent. But my sliver of hope for survival lies with the Wang family. I must still make the journey. Jiang Hongren was worried. How about I go with you? If anything happens, you'll have someone to help. I flatly refused. Let me get a handle on the situation first, then I'll bring you over. After taking care of the errands, a few days later I arrived in the imperial capital and returned to the Wang house. After meeting the Wang family, I was actually a bit disappointed. In this house, some are foolish, others are wicked. Not a single person is virtuous or kind. I saw nothing special about them at all. I truly couldn't understand where that sliver of hope was hidden. But at this moment, looking at the dense process of deduction before me, the faces of the Wang parents flashed in my mind, the dark aura upon them, then Xie Ruyan, lying on her bed with fading breath, but with death energy so thick it condensed. Finally, everything became clear. So that's how it is. The hope for life corresponds to the Wang family, but it doesn't lie with them. The Wang family is merely a small clue, used to lead me through layers of challenges, so that I could smoothly meet Xie Ruyan. My sliver of hope for survival actually lies within Xie Ruyan. Looking back at the past 20 years now, it feels somewhat desolate. The son of the Wang family, before he was even born, was betrothed to the Xie family from childhood. At birth, he was switched and ended up wandering outside. The child's life was short, and I awakened. Years later, returning home to find Xie Ruyan comatose due to foul play. Every single event, if it had gone in another direction, would have led to completely different outcomes. Is everything now a coincidence or an inevitability? Is it that the heavens decreed it so in the unseen realms? Or is there an invisible hand behind it all pushing things forward? My survival rests with Xie Ruyan, but what specifically does that imply? A flurry of mysteries came rushing in. I pondered for a long time. I took the paper on the table and folded it over and over, finally forming it into a triangle, holding it between my fingertips while staring at it. In the deep of night, as the fog rose, the room seemed to be covered in a layer of mist. My face appeared hazy within it, looking somewhat distant. My fingertips loosened, and the folded triangular paper tumbled downward. Before hitting the ground, it suddenly ignited in a small flash, turning into a pile of ash on the floor in an instant. Whatever, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. No matter what, Living on is better than dying young. Just as old Jiang said, he's still waiting for me to burn incense for him one day. I smiled softly and went back to bed. Before getting in, I kicked off my slippers, just enough to scatter the pile of ash nearby. The next day was Saturday, and the housekeeper came to clean my room. Suddenly she froze. Eldest young master, did you leave the window open last night? I remember clearly that I mopped the floor very clean yesterday, so why is there such obvious dust in the crevices today? The housekeeper cleans the house every day. Everyone wears clean slippers in the bedrooms, so logically this shouldn't be happening. I was leaning back in a lounge chair reading. Hearing this, I looked up with a gentle smile. I don't quite remember. It must be so. I'll be more careful next time. Thank you for your hard work today. My smile was so gentle that the housekeeper felt a sense of warmth in her heart. She hurriedly waved her hand. It's nothing. This is just part of my job. I just wanted to remind you, eldest young master, the weather has turned cold lately, and opening windows at night makes it easy to catch a cold. If you want some fresh air, try to open them during the day instead. I nodded obediently. Thank you. I'll remember that. The housekeeper carried out the trash bag containing the ash, and since there was trash in the living room too, she stopped by there on her way. A sudden gust of wind came out of nowhere, loosening the opening of the trash bag in her hand, and some nearly invisible ash drifted out. Father Wang was sitting in the living room talking to Mother Wang when he suddenly felt a chill all over and let out a powerful sneeze. Mother Wang stopped talking and tenderly felt his forehead. What's wrong with you? Did you catch a cold? Father Wang frowned. Perhaps so. I've already made an appointment with the Shi family, telling them we will visit tomorrow. Do you think we should take a Heng with us? Mother Wang was still a bit hesitant. Do we really want a Heng to marry her? The situation with those three sisters, after all, he is our biological son. Wan Fu stood up to check his phone for messages. Perhaps because he stood up too quickly, he suddenly felt a bout of dizziness. He rubbed his temples. That side is already preparing to take action. I can't say for sure about the Shi family matter. We can only temporarily tie a Heng to the main family for now. If something goes wrong, we'll still have a way out. I know you see a Heng as elegant and handsome, the very image of the son you've always wanted. But the current situation is very specific. No matter what happens later, we will provide a Heng with plenty of money to ensure he has a wealthy life. What do you think? Mrs. Wang sighed, saying that this was the only way left. It wasn't that she didn't feel a sense of regret for her biological son. Even though her bond with Wang Tang had grown incredibly deep over the years, Wang Tang was a noble young master who had received endless praise within the elite circles. But she always felt that something was missing in Wang Tang. He didn't quite meet all her expectations of a perfect son. Until the very first day Jiang Heng returned home. Watching Jiang Heng sitting at the dining table with the family, his noble and ethereal aura made her suddenly realize the truth. What Wang Tang lacked was that innate rebel air that emanated from his very soul. It was something that no amount of grooming or training could ever replicate. Yet Jiang Heng possessed it with the utmost natural ease. In that moment, Mrs. Wang's heart was filled with a late, sharp regret. She couldn't help but think to herself, if A Heng hadn't been switched and had been raised in the Wang family from the start, just how extraordinary would he have become by now? And she, as the madam of the Wang family, how proud would she have been in front of the other noble ladies? It was as if Mrs. Wang had just lost a priceless gem that could have left the entire world in awe. She let out a soft sigh of deep regret. Early that morning, Wang Fu let out a single sneeze. No one paid the slightest bit of attention to such a trivial thing, but unexpectedly by that afternoon, he was bedridden with a high fever. His face was flushed red from the intense heat of the fever. His head throbbed and his mind became clouded and delirious, to the point where he couldn't even force himself to get out of bed. After the private doctor arrived for an examination, they insisted he be taken to the hospital immediately. Otherwise, this high fever could lead to extremely dangerous complications. The Wang family members frantically rushed Wang Fu to the nearest hospital for emergency treatment. After putting him on an IV drip, they followed the doctor's instructions. They kept Wang Fu at the hospital for observation for a few more days. Wang Fu's scheduled meeting with the Xie family the next day to discuss the marriage alliance. Naturally, it had to be postponed and fell through. After accompanying the Wang family on their trip to the hospital, I took a taxi back home. I took a leisurely stroll through the garden. I spotted a cluster of snow-white flowers blooming in dense abundance. They looked incredibly vibrant and beautiful. I asked a passing butler what kind of flowers they were. The butler took a close look for a moment. Then he even called over the gardener to confirm. It turned out they were a type of autumn chrysanthemum. They had a grand name, Jintang Yu Ma. It was the very flower that Mr. Wang himself had hand-picked to be planted. I secretly scoffed at him for choosing white chrysanthemums, although I knew these weren't the same as funeral flowers. They still carried the somber white hue common to chrysanthemums. The butler pretended not to notice my mocking smile. He chose to remain silent and ignore it. Then he added that when buying the flowers, Mr. Wang was so enamored by the flashy name that he insisted on buying them no matter what. By the time he realized they were white chrysanthemums, it didn't seem very appropriate anymore, did it? No one would ever plant in a beautiful garden a whole cluster of stark white chrysanthemums like this. I secretly guessed that. Wang Fu most likely wanted to have someone rip them right out, but then he probably thought about how he was the one who picked them, so he decided to let it be, fearing a loss of face. The name Jintang Yu Ma. A fine name, I smiled, lightly brushing my hand over the petals. I said with a deep underlying meaning. Perhaps many things in life are just like choosing these flowers. The name and the appearance seem so grand and magnificent. You think the final outcome will surely be as you desired, but you never expect the unspoken hardships that are still lying in wait behind it all. The butler didn't seem to grasp the profound meaning in my words. He bowed his head, trying to step aside as if he hadn't heard a thing. Wang Fu had to stay in the hospital for this entire week. Mrs. Wang also stayed by his side to look after him. The house suddenly became much quieter. Ever since I warned Wang Teng, he seemed to have developed a certain wariness toward me. He no longer dared to cause any more trouble. I felt all the more relaxed and at ease. Every day besides attending classes, I was busy preparing the ritual items for Saturday. Neiyu showed extreme interest and curiosity about this. Every day he would follow me around, pestering me with questions. Even when I skipped class to go to the antique street, he trailed behind me. Hey, are you going to make a huge scene when the time comes? Like with thunder and lightning, sparks flying everywhere like in the movies. Do we need to prepare the venue beforehand? Do we need to install more lightning rods? Also, I see people usually set up altars to pray. Do they always need those really large basins? Do we need to custom order? I was speechless and replied calmly. We won't be needing any lightning rods. But as for a large basin, we definitely need one. It would be best to have it custom made. Just make it according to your own height and measurements. Miyu had been busily taking notes with great seriousness. Upon hearing the last sentence, he asked back in a daze, "Why does it have to be based on my standards?" I was still keeping an eye on my surroundings. Right then, I arrived in front of the stall I had set my sights on earlier. The stall owner was a man in his early 40s. He was sitting on a folding chair, completely absorbed in a puzzle game. Hearing a customer arrive, he didn't even bother to look up. He just casually beckoned. "It's all top-quality stuff. Feel free to look around." I slowly squatted down. I pretended to casually pick up a porcelain plate to examine it. But from the corner of my eye, I glanced at the Ping An Ko jade piece nearby. That Ping An jade piece was only about the size of a coin. It was entirely a pale shade of green, but within the green, there were delicate white veins intertwined. At first glance, it didn't look like a high-quality item at all. But with just one look, I recognized the faint spiritual energy radiating from it. I finally officially picked up the Ping An jade piece. I examined it while asking the owner how much it cost. The owner looked up at me. He paused for a moment. Everyone on this antique street had a very sharp eye. He immediately saw that Niyu and I were clearly wealthy young masters. So when I asked for the price, he didn't hesitate to hold up 5 fingers. I said with a half smile, 500 yuan? The owner chuckled. Add 2 more zeros to the end of that. Adding 2 more zeros meant 50,000 yuan. Niyu immediately frowned. He advised me that this was just cheap jadeite, used for making small decorative trinkets. It was absolutely not worth 50,000. If you like jade that much, it'll pick out a really good one for you when we get home. Seeing Niyu talk so fluently about the types of jade, the owner secretly realized things weren't going well. He quickly changed his tune. But I see you two have a real connection with this piece. So I'll take a loss and give it to you for 3,000. Just take it. He offered a middle-of-the-road price. He was certain that these wealthy young masters would never bother worrying about such pocket change, and would just carelessly throw the money down to get it over with. Unexpectedly, Niyu and I didn't act according to the usual expectations. Niyu said it wasn't worth the money and told me not to buy it. And I said, 500 yuan is already plenty of profit for you. I won't pay a single cent more than that. With that, I made a move as if to put the jade piece back on the table. This little item had been sitting here for a long time without anyone asking about it. Now he could both sell it and make a small profit. The owner didn't dare to miss this chance. He swiftly thrust the payment QR code in front of me. Then he feigned a reluctant look. All right, just pay and take it with you. After I paid and left the stall, Niyu was still feeling indignant. He saw we were young, so he deliberately shouted such a high price. Paying 500 for this low-quality thing is just being ripped off. It wasn't that he actually cared about the money itself, but he was mostly upset with the owner's attitude, trying to swindle us right from the beginning. I placed the jade piece in my palm and rubbed it gently. If anyone else bought it, it would be fake. But now that I've bought it, it's no longer fake. Niyu laughed loudly. I'm not surprised that you can tell fortunes, but can you really turn trash into gold? No matter what, this thing can't possibly become a top-tier treasure. Niyu suddenly widened his eyes in shock. He stared intently at the pink and jade piece I was holding up. The circular jade piece that looked so rough and cloudy just moments ago was now revealing an incredibly beautiful semi-transparent quality under the sunlight. It had become strangely clear and pure. The emerald green color also became very deep and rich. Why does it look exactly like imperial green? In shock, Niyu snatched the jade piece to examine it closely. He stammered. Just now it didn't look like this. My cousin used to have a guanyin pendant. I heard it was a rare, top-tier treasure, and it had even been carefully blessed and consecrated. A few years ago, a collector took a look at it. They said its value was no less than 500 million yuan. Niyu clicked his tongue in amazement. This ping and jade of yours looks no inferior to my cousin's treasure at all. But it clearly wasn't like this just now, right? Niyu almost started to doubt his own eyes. He kept looking back and forth from the jade to me, muttering, "If you really can turn any cheap piece of jadeite into an absolute top-tier treasure like this, then wouldn't you soon become a mega-billionaire?" He was just joking casually like that. Unexpectedly, I actually fell into deep thought for a few seconds. You just suggested a pretty good direction for me. He pointed at the jade piece, and then lowered his voice to whisper, "Can you really change the grade of jade?" I smiled. It's not just that. I can even change the quality of a person. When Niyu heard about such a miraculous secret art, he became extremely enthusiastic. He looked around shiftily for a while, and then whispered, "What do you mean? Is it like the 72 transformations skill in the stories?" I put away the ping and jade piece. I replied with a smile, "Not the kind where you turn people into fools." Niyu was puzzled. "Then how do you turn someone into a fool?" I continued calmly, "Just open the front camera of your phone, and wouldn't you know right away?" Niyu was stunned for a moment, and then did so unconsciously, until he saw his own face displayed clearly on the screen. Then he suddenly realized, "Jiang Heng, you tricked me again." Having said that, he even indignantly slapped his own forehead. Goodness, how could I be so naive? I couldn't help but burst into laughter. After laughing, I felt a bit wistful. What's wrong with being a fool? Fools often have their own kind of blessings. If a person can still be naive as an adult, it proves that they've always had a solid support system behind them, and there's someone in front ready to stand up and protect them, so they never have to witness the chaos of the outside world. Niyu fell silent. His parents had also said so. They always treated him with boundless tolerance, never forcing him to shoulder the family business. His grandfather even said that even if he knew how to do nothing in the future, he could still live freely under his cousin's protection. But my cousin now, Niyu lowered his head sadly. Is there really no way to save her lifespan? I thought of the single ray of hope for survival that I had spent years laboriously searching for. Then I thought of the strange contract on Xia Ruyan's body. I mused. There will definitely be a way. It's just that I don't know exactly what that way is yet. That Friday afternoon, after finishing all the classes for the week, I got into Mi Ping's family car. Mi Ping grumbled softly. I was originally going to take you out to a restaurant for a meal, but my parents insisted on hosting you at home. I really don't know what they're thinking. I was still busy replying to messages on my phone. Hearing her say that, I just gave a perfunctory grunt, and then calmly continued. They probably want to take the opportunity to have me. Look at your house's feng shui as well. Mi Ping hadn't expected this. She looked a bit embarrassed. Then wouldn't that be too much of a bother for you? I answered flatly, it's no bother. I just take the money and do the job. I charge a clear fee for doing feng shui consultations, you know. Mi Ping's family lived in quite a prestigious villa district. The green space here was very well planned. It leaned against majestic green mountains in the back, with a gentle stream flowing in front. As the car turned into the villa area, it began to slow down. Sitting in the back seat, I observed the scenery all along the way. I secretly praised it. This area is really quite good. About how much do the houses here cost? I've been thinking about looking for a house to buy lately. I'm planning to buy one so I can bring old man Jiang up to live with me. Mi Ping scratched her head. I'm not really sure. I've never asked about the prices. The car stopped right in front of her house gate. The entire Mi family was already standing outside waiting. Mi Yan rushed forward to open the car door for me. After a few initial polite greetings, the whole group of us went inside together. Mr. Mi led the way while excitedly introducing the scenery. By the time we were settled in the living room with tea ready, he finally got to the point. Actually, our invitation to the master today is because we have a bold request we'd like to ask. Mrs. Mi immediately added, "It's not about anything else. It's just that since the incident with Zhao Yan last time, we just haven't been able to feel at peace. Last time, thanks to the master warning Ping Ping, Zhao Yan was lucky enough to escape a disaster, but we're worried whether something else might happen in the future." Mr. Mi gave a bitter smile and agreed. Mainly, we want to ask the master to help. Look at our family members, to see if there are any other calamities yet to come. Was what happened to Mi Yan a matter of fate, or is there a problem with our house's feng shui, or perhaps some other reason? I had already guessed their intentions, so I wasn't surprised at all. I proactively suggested, "How about I take a look around the house?" Mr. Mi was overjoyed. He hurriedly stood up and personally led the way for me. The house was decorated in a traditional Chinese style. The arrangement of the furniture was very delicate and elaborate. Primary colors gave it a very warm feeling. One could see that the owner had put in a lot of heart. I leisurely followed behind. Examining up to the third floor, I saw that the aura was very favorable. There seemed to be no concerning issues. As we were about to leave the master bedroom, my gaze suddenly became sharp. I looked out toward the swimming pool outside. I felt something was slightly odd. "When you first moved in, did you not have anyone check the house?" Mrs. Mi replied, "We originally intended to find a feng shui master, but that year Zhao Yan happened to be taking his university entrance exams. The whole family was frantically worried about his studies, so we didn't have the peace of mind to pay attention to anything else. And then later, we just completely forgot about it. I thought to myself, no wonder there's such a big hidden problem in the backyard. Was this swimming pool already here from the beginning?" The Mi couple also looked in the direction I was pointing. They looked toward the deep pool in the backyard. "Yes, it's been there since the start." She wondered, "Is there something wrong with this pool?" "I see most of the pools in this area are just like that." I took a step back, so that Mr. and Mrs. Mi could stand where I was and look out. "Try looking from this angle. Do you feel like that pool over there is a bit strange?" Mr. Mi frowned, still not seeing anything. Mrs. Mi hesitated. It looks a bit distorted." I smiled. "Fill this pool in and build another one." Only now did Mr. Mi understand. Does the master mean that this pool's feng shui is bad? There's nothing wrong with the pool itself, but seen from the master bedroom, it forms a long hook shape. In feng shui, we call this the Tang Xiong Gong Xing formation. It easily invites in unfavorable and impure energies. If the owner lives here for a long time, then their lungs will very likely develop ailments. Mr. Mi hurriedly asked for more details. "So how should we build it for the best results?" I pointed toward the southwest. "Right now, it's best to build the pool in the shape of a figure 8 or a gourd. It will look well-rounded and bring good fortune. But it must absolutely not be a perfect circle." Mr. Mi nodded repeatedly, hurrying to record all the advice on his phone. Other than that, there are no more problems. My gaze finally rested on Mr. Mi's face. I paused for a moment and said, "You and your wife share a deep bond. You have plenty of children, both sons and daughters. If nothing unexpected happens, your career will continue to rise. In your old age, you will enjoy a peaceful and blessed life." Mr. Mi felt as though his entire being had been seen through to his soul. A chill suddenly ran down his spine. My meaningful words kept echoing in his mind. If nothing unexpected happens. In recent years, his company had become increasingly prosperous. Whenever he had to entertain or host guests outside, it was hard to avoid visiting places of loose entertainment. He had witnessed many peers who wouldn't leave their main wives, but had affairs with mistresses on the side. Sometimes a little flirtatious intent would also arise in his heart, but in reality he hadn't yet done anything that crossed the line. Now, after hearing my reminder, those deviant thoughts that had started to brew completely vanished without a trace. For sure. Mr. Mi wrapped his arm around Mrs. Mi's shoulders. He said sincerely, "I will certainly know when I have enough and cherish this blessing." Mrs. Mi was completely unaware of that psychological struggle. She just happily led me to the dining room to have a meal. Throughout that dinner, the Mi couple praised me non-stop. The praise was so much that even Mi Ping felt embarrassed listening to it. She leaned in and whispered to Mi Yan, saying softly, "In all these years, our parents have never praised us like that. It's as if all the beautiful words in the world were reserved for Jiang Heng." After eating, we stayed to chat a bit more. Then I excused myself and got in the car to go home. While on the road, my phone buzzed with a message alert. Opening it up, another massive sum of money had just been transferred in. I smiled slightly with satisfaction. I casually looked up the account number for the aid fund, for women and children that I often donate to, and immediately transferred half of the money I had just received. Last Saturday. I had arranged with the Shi family to go to the hospital this Saturday. Miayu personally brought a driver to pick me up. As soon as we met, he handed me the milk tea I liked. I didn't expect someone like you to like drinking milk tea. When I received the message asking for milk tea, I thought your account had been hacked by someone. I took a sip of the fragrant, creamy milk tea and thought that milk tea really is a truly great invention of modern humans. I lazily leaned back against the car seat. Of course. What did you think I normally eat and drink? Miayu replied awkwardly, like drinking night dew or breathing in pure mountain air. I burst out laughing. That's a deity you're thinking of. Not a master. A master not only doesn't drink morning dew, but might even be addicted to durian and stinky tofu. Miayu's expression went blank. By the time I finished the milk tea, the car arrived at the same hospital we had visited before. This time, those waiting inside the hospital room, besides Niayu's mother, Mrs. Xie Huili, and Elder Xie. There was also Niayu's father, and a very tall, handsome man. His face radiated a cold, distant aura. His whole body exuded a wild and ambitious temperament. When he shook my hand, he gave a faint smirk. One could tell he was trying very hard to make himself look a bit more gentle and approachable. Hello, I am Xie Chengsun, Ruyan's older brother. Thank you for taking the time to come here today. Also, thank you for helping the Shi family with all your heart. After a few more social greetings, I placed my shoulder bag on the table and began taking out the ritual items from inside. Everyone watched as from that small bag of mine. I first pulled out several sticks of incense and some cinnabar. Next was a stack of yellow paper talismans. And finally, I even produced a jade Ruyi scepter. As soon as Elder Shi saw that Ruyi scepter, his eyes lit up. Master, this Ruyi is truly a treasure. I handed the Ruyi scepter to him. Please don't call me master. Just calling me Jiang Heng is fine. This Ruyi is actually a ritual tool. I normally use it very rarely. Elder Shi very cautiously received it and examined it with great fascination. He had already admired countless rare treasures in his life, but even now he couldn't help but click his tongue in praise. Rare, truly rare. This is truly the finest quality among the world's jades.